Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tim Dillon Show. Let's address it out of the gate. Let's talk about the biggest free speech issue right now in the world. Let's tackle it head on. Everyone is talking about it. Everyone wants to know what it means. I was fired from the Riyadh Comedy Festival. It is the most important free speech news. Everybody has a take. Everyone has an opinion. It's inescapable. Go to a lunch, it comes up. You're at a christening. You think you're safe, you're not. Did you hear? Comedian, podcaster, Tim Dillon fired from Saudi Arabia's first comedy festival. Shocking developments. What does it mean? What does it mean? I'll tell you how it went down, and then we'll address that thing at ABC with Kimmel. I also heard there's an issue there, but my agent called me and told me, first of all, I'll lay out the whole thing. I was supposed to perform in Dubai. I mixed up Dubai and I said Abu Dhabi. Apparently this is a big deal over there. This is like a real problem. My agent called me and he goes, you said on Joe Rogan that you were performing in Abu Dhabi and you're actually performing in Dubai. They're cities and they have a rivalry. And I go, dude, who gives a fuck? What do I stop? I made a mistake. This is not a malicious slander. It's a mistake. He goes, well, they're very angry and they sent an email that you need to be controlled. I said, well, good luck. Whatever. I don't have to do it. I don't care. And then he called me a few days later and I thought he was going to talk about the Kimmel thing. But he called me and he said they heard what you said about them having slaves. And I said, I was being positive about it. I was defending them. He goes, well, I know that. I know you were defending them. I said, I was defending them for having slaves. I literally said slaves are probably hard workers and for the most part agreeable. But they didn't like that. You can literally support somebody too much. I've learned this. You can actually, by the way, in life, this happens. Too many compliments, too much support, and then they turn on you. I was saying that slaves were proud of some of the buildings they built. That's what I was saying. I was saying that if I was a slave, not that I want to be, if I was a slave and I built a really nice thing, I might say to my slave children, Daddy built that.
Righteous homemade. This shit is whack. This ain't nothing. I'll drink the whole thing.
That's what I was saying, that I would have said, hey, Daddy built that. When my slave children said, ooh, look at that, I'd say, you know, Daddy built that. I was going that angle. Apparently, this got to the people in Saudi Arabia, and they were unhappy about it. They're huge fans of comedy over there. Now, I am very clear about the way I will do a gig. If I accept a gig, I am not going to break the rules of the gig. Meaning, Amish people call me. They go, Tim, we're going to pay you a lot of money. We want you to perform in the Amish, Pennsylvania Dutch country. But we're Amish. So we don't want to hear about iPhones or Kalshi, which they should hear about. It's phenomenal, this Kalshi. We'll get to it later. But if that was a rule, I would respect it while I'm there, while I'm in Pennsylvania Dutch country, eating shoe fly pie, respecting their culture.
Hey, this is so
You have a culture. You've got Sharia law. Would I like Sharia law? No, I don't want it. Actually, I don't want it. I'm good. But you have it. So I don't, it's not like I have bits in my act about the prophet anyway. So I certainly wasn't going to show up in your country and insult the people that are paying me the money. One, it's illegal. So I wasn't really planning to go to a Saudi jail. But on my own show, in my own country, where I have the freedom to speak and say the things I want, I'm going to be funny and I'm going to be who I am. And if you're not buying that, you don't have the right to tell me on my own show. People were coming up to me saying, why would you go to that country? They have slaves. In Tribeca, they were assaulting me, these people. I'm just leaving a lunch and they're coming out. They have slaves, they say. And of course, I addressed it in a funny way and they fired me. And then they told me, they go, my agent, they all call me, you don't have to talk about this, they say. Don't talk about it. Remember when you talked about Joker? I said, what? They go, it hurts you to talk about these things. In what? In what is even left, you bums? The only thing left is what I'm doing. Nobody, what? What are you talking about? So, and what I mean by that is like, there's the business doesn't have any teeth anymore. They can't tell me what to do or say. They're not even offering anything. They're not even offering anything. We don't want people thinking you're a problem. But they already, how do they not think that? How could they not think that? A Google of me and a read a 60-second scroll. You buy me, you buy what I'm going to do. Joker was a bad movie. Why would I lie and say it's good? Everyone thought it was bad in the world. Okay? Every article that came out was like, hey, this thing sucks. What was I supposed to do? By the way, I was in it for a second and I made no money. What loyalty am I supposed to have? And the director was mean to me. So I'm supposed to go out there and talk about how great it is. Well, you're actually just misunderstanding the movie. It's actually really good. The Joker doing dance numbers is good. It's good that it doesn't have a plot. It's actually good. It doesn't work. Who the fuck wants to watch that? You know? So they were like, well, you don't have to tell people that you're not going because, we don't want people thinking you're that person that gets fired. Yeah, whatever, think it. What do I give a fuck? I mean, what? Who cares? I'm gonna get fired again. I'm gonna get fired again from people that are not even Saudis. I'm gonna get fired by people who don't chop hands off. I'm gonna get fired by reasonable people. I'm gonna get fired by people that don't practice Sharia law. I will be fired by many races and religions. I'm going to be fired by others. This is the most controversial the people who fire me will ever be. Let me relish in this. Let's take this win. The future people that fire me will be good. Mothers and fathers, family people, who probably fire me for a completely rational reason. I just rolled out of bed and I just decided to do something they didn't like, and that's completely fine. It is what it is. This is the first time I've been fired by people that actually do really bad things. So let's take this win. Let's take this win. I'm now with Iran. Iran's against them. I'm with Iran now. You've pushed me into the bosom of Iran. Do you understand that? I'm going to Tehran to do their comedy festival. I don't care. I'm being pushed into the arms of Iran. Those types of Muslims. What are those ones called? Shia. I'm Shia now. I was gonna be Sunni. I think Saudi is Sunni, and Iran is Shia. Right?
Okay,
Yes?
bitch,
Maybe?
blow it.
I'm Shia now.
Oh, shit.
Shiite? Right? That's what I am now because you've done this to me. You fired me and created a Shia problem.
Let's roll.
I'm a Shiite problem now, biatch. So, who cares? By the way, I get to keep. My agent knows this. He knows often if you represent me, you're going to get calls that people are unhappy. He just thought it would be like the usual suspects. The people around this town, this dispiriting dump called Los Angeles. He thought it was going to be those people at the, whatever, the Riviera Country Club calling me going, we don't really, this guy's like, what is he doing? Why did he have Candace Owens? Why does he open his mouth? What's wrong with him? Why is he dressed up like a Muslim, then a Jew? What's going on? I don't get it. That's the normal calls. He didn't think he was going to get a call from the Middle East. He didn't think I was going to get fired by a theocracy in the Middle East. Neither did I, but I'm with Iran now. That's what happened. This is geopolitics. You understand? This is why the Middle East is so effed up. Because there's no fucking unity. There's no goddamn unity. That's all. So I will be with Iran. I don't know what to tell everyone. Now let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel, which, by the way, I think is much less interesting than what happened to me. But as usual, it's dominated the headlines. Jimmy Kimmel, I don't know Jimmy. I've never met Jimmy. I don't watch his show. My friends know him and really, really like him as a guy. He's like less annoying in real life than he is on television. This is what I hear from people whom I trust. I think Jimmy was a funny guy. I don't watch what he does now. It's very political. It's very kind of annoying to most people. Even to people that are in the middle, it's annoying. To people that are apolitical, it's annoying. It's way over the top. Colbert, him, everybody went way over the top. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He should still be on the air, and I'll get to why. But setting the stage here, they all went way over the top. Johnny Carson said years ago, I'm not political, I'm here to put Americans to bed. These guys went fully the other way. They alienated half the country. It's their right, by the way. It's their right. Is it a great business move? Probably not. Probably not. If you opened a pizzeria, you wouldn't call it fuck Trump pizza, unless it was in Portland or something. If you're trying to appeal to a demographic of people that is of many political stripes, but they're not. They've given up on that. That's fine. That's their right. It's their right to politicize their show to a point where it's unwatchable. And by the way, that's anyone's right. Okay? I'm going to play the joke he made.
Give me that money.
It's a weird joke, and it's a not factually correct thing, but here's why I'm going to not only defend it, but I think it is ridiculous to pull this guy off the air. I think it's ridiculous to pretend it was about money. I think it's ridiculous to pretend that it's not a political hit job. It's a political hit job, and we know it. Was ABC, is it the cash cow it was 10, 20 years ago? Absolutely not. We know late night TV is dying. We know all of that. That's not why this show got yanked. And pretending it is an insult to people's intelligence, okay? It's an insult to people's intelligence. This was a hit, politically motivated hit job, okay? It's something that most people who talk for a living should care about if you talk for a living. If you're making money, entertaining people, informing people, whatever it is you think you're doing out there, anybody who's doing that should care a little bit about this. Let's watch his joke, and then let's talk about the fallout.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction.
So here's the thing. Not a bad, it's a fun joke. The setup to the joke where it's like they're doing everything they can to pretend this guy's not a MAGA guy. Nobody thought this guy was a MAGA guy. People thought he was a far-right internet kid or a far-left internet kid. No one thought he was like a card-carrying member of the MAGA group. So he's presenting the premise is false, whatever. Highlighting Trump's absurd reaction when asked about Charlie Kirk, you start talking about a ballroom. Dude, I mean, it's the president's own words. And then he does, a joke about he's at the fifth stage of grief, fourth stage of grief, construction, whatever. It's kind of, now listen, it's being done in a climate that's very charged emotionally. A guy got shot in the face. His wife and kid will watch that for the rest of their life. His wife and children. The reactions to it, some of them were abhorrent. Some of the reactions to that were, including some of the mainstream media obits, were wild. Scoring political points on the guy with a hole in his neck. It's insane. And it's radicalized a lot of people. And I'm not saying that was everybody's reaction, but there were people that reacted in a way. Now, by the way, again, I'll say it again. I dressed up like a dead healthcare CEO and satirized how people feel when someone divisive dies. I'm not against people doing comedy, dark comedy, black comedy, whatever you want to call it. I think that the reactions to the Kirk thing were people that were rationalizing, not in a satirical way, but in a very genuine way, rationalizing this guy getting shot, rationalizing him being killed, going, this is good, more of this, we need this, okay? And if you're on that side where you believe people that you don't like should just get shot in the face, hey, what am I going to do? But it's abhorrent to many people. It's not a bit. It's not a joke. There is a difference between a guy that's denying life-saving treatment to people who's a healthcare CEO and a guy sitting on college campuses debating kids. I don't care what you think about his views. There is a substantive difference between those two people. And I wasn't for the healthcare guy getting shot in the head. I'm not for random people getting shot in the head. I'd gladly pay higher taxes if people got healthcare. They never seem to. Taxes go up and they never seem to get that. But there is a substantive difference. And the idea that, like, people watched this whole thing and some of the reactions were so beyond the pale, it's going to be hard to get those people to care about what's happening to Kimmel.
Give me that grip.
It is. Folks, I'll tell you right now, you got to get healthier. About Lucy, 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. Lucy breakers are nicotine pouches with an extra surprise. Each pouch holds a capsule that can be broken up to release extra flavor and hydration. Set yourself up with a subscription and have Lucy delivered straight to your door. God, I love all of the Lucy flavors. It's amazing. They're so good. I use a medium strength. It's fine. Let's level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/TIM. Promo code TIM to get 20% off your first order. Lucy has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. Again, that's lucy.co and use code TIM to get 20% off. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. People just want scalps. That's what they want. No one in this country has any interest in a bipartisan standard where people agree that they're going to be bothered. America's about being bothered all the time by people you don't like. People in this country are going to make a lot of money saying things you don't like. You may be listening to one of them right now. That is annoying. People don't like that. They're never going to like it. It'll never be satisfying to hear someone you don't agree with say things you don't like and get paid lots of money to do it. But that's part of the deal. It's part of the reality of living in America. Nobody likes this. You either turn it off, or you hate watch it, or you project onto this person things that you believe they are. Maybe you're right, who knows? But you can't think it's a great idea that the FCC, the chairman of the FCC, goes on a podcast and goes, we can do it the easy way or the hard way. We can think about revoking broadcast licenses, and then pressures affiliates to drop this show. Because this guy said something the President of the United States doesn't like. The President of the United States then also follows it up by going, hey, Seth Meyers, Fallon, Seth Meyers, you're next.
Oh, look.
You're next. Do we have the FCC? See if we can find the video of Carr. I forget his first name. Yeah, going and talking about this. Okay, let's listen to this.
There's actions that we can take on licensed broadcasters. And frankly, I think that it's really sort of past time that a lot of these licensed broadcasters themselves push back on Comcast and Disney and say, listen, we are going to preempt. We are not going to run Kimmel anymore until you straighten this out, because we, the licensed broadcaster, are running the possibility of fines or license revocation from the FCC if we continue to run content that ends up being a pattern of news distortion. So I think, again, Disney needs to see some change here, but the individual licensed stations that are taking their content, it's time for them to step up and say, this, garbage, to the extent that that's what comes down the pipe in the future, isn't something that we think serves the needs of our local communities. But this sort of status quo is obviously not acceptable.
They're building China. It's what they're building. It's why all of the tech people decided they were Republicans. It's why all of the contracts are going to build AI models that look at speech that they don't like from students that attend to protest. They're building China, and they don't want you to notice. And if they can weaponize politics so that you stop caring, they can transform America into something that's kind of unrecognizable. This isn't without precedent. During the 2020s, lunatics ran through a lot of the institutions in America, from the media to the universities, demanding that people they disagreed with be fired. They demanded those people be deplatformed. They demanded those people be made, into sacrifices publicly. Those people, they wanted those people to be broke. They wanted those people's families to be targeted and harassed. And we watched this in the 2020s. And it was disturbing to me. I remember the Covington kids. That grimacing little kid was standing there, and the Native Americans beating the drum in his face. And then celebrities, people I know, were calling for the doxing of that literal child and his family, who then, upon further reflection, didn't do anything wrong. This is a human impulse. It's a human impulse to get whipped up into a frenzy and join a mob and run around with pitchforks and proclaim that you are morally superior to other people. This is something human beings enjoy doing. There's not that many things that get people off. This is one of them. Going and joining, picking up a pitchfork And running down the street with the mob is something that people get great enjoyment out of. It's fun. They like it. They like tearing people limb from limb. And the problem with that is that it doesn't end. See, it doesn't end. The left does it to the right does it to the left, and then eventually the government decides that people hate each other in this country enough that the government can then chop this thing up, sell it for parts, while you all hate each other and fight each other. They can hand the country over to oligarchs. Many of them are friends. They all have dinner in Washington, D.C. They're all talking about how they reach out to people in the media, people like me, you know, they reach out to everybody, and they tell you that it's going to be good, that they are the guardians of free speech. They care about your ability to say things that ruffle feathers. They're with you. And they're actors. And behind them are very wealthy people, some of whom you know, many of whom you don't, by the way. And I don't. And we could look them up and have trouble finding them. Not in some crazy conspiracy Knights Templar way, but in the genuine way of like many of the people who have huge ownership stakes in companies are not public figures. They exist on the periphery. They have large sums of money and they're pretty quiet about it, but they funnel that money into places and they strangle industries. And all these people want to merge. They want to do mergers with their companies. They want to monopolize industries. They want government money and they want government grants, so they shut up and they don't say anything about kind of this encroaching, you know, autocratic system. And it doesn't come from any one angle. You know, all these people think, well, it'll just I don't care. People go, I'm from the right. It'll come from the right. It'll silence everyone I don't like, and which you shouldn't want anyway. But it will never work like that because what is left and what is right isn't fixed. It's changing. It's changing. 3 years ago, the right wing solidly supported Israel. Right now, they don't. 3 years ago, it was unthinkable for a majority of the right to have turned against America's funding of Israel. Now you are seeing people under 40 on the left and the right agreeing that America should not be funding whatever the hell Israel's doing. You know, building, Las Vegas on the Gaza Strip. Nobody's in for that. Nobody's in for that. When the Israeli finance minister comes out and goes, hey, we spent a lot of money on the war. We got to get paid back a little bit. We're doing a real estate project. It's on Trump's desk. It's all fine. People under 40 are going, hey, man, I can't own a house. I can't pay back my student loans. Why are my tax dollars funding you guys going and building Miami in Gaza? Who's that for? Who's that for? And why are people funding it? You know, if you work at a 7-Eleven for 12 hours a day, on your feet, dealing with every drunk who walks in, grabbing, they want a pack of cigarettes, they want this, they want a hot dog, they want, you got protein bar, whatever. And you do that job, which is not an easy job, whatever job you do, but think about that, and you're getting paid whatever. I don't know what 7-Eleven pays, but let's imagine it's not ideal. Your tax dollars are going so that real estate developers can build luxury condos with like floating bathtubs in Gaza. There's no way anyone elected Trump for this. There's zero possibility that people elected Donald Trump so that their tax dollars could go to luxury real estate development in Gaza or in Qatar. There's zero way that any of this, take a look at that. To be fair, it does look nice. To be fair, it's a little bit of an AI rendering. But nobody elected him for that. And now if you criticize that, they'll take your visa. If you're a foreign student, they'll just shut you down. So shut the fuck up, get out of here. You know? So Kimmel was losing money for ABC. Maybe, I don't know. I heard he wasn't. I heard he wasn't making a lot of money, but I heard he wasn't losing it. But by the way, whether he was or he wasn't, who cares? He was losing it last week and he wasn't off the air. It's directly related to that joke. The FCC commissioner said it. I don't think it was a particularly good thing for Jimmy Kimmel to say this guy was MAGA. He wasn't MAGA. By the way, it's easily correctable. You can correct the record without destroying someone's ability to speak. This is something that, you try to die on the hill of this. Now, the only thing left in this country, unfortunately, seems to be power. Everybody thinking that Jimmy Kimmel being removed and indefinitely suspended from ABC means that you are winning, you're a fool. Your tax dollars are going to build casinos in Gaza. You're not winning. This is not what winning looks like, by the way. Kimmel had planned to address Carr's comments on his show Wednesday night, according to people familiar with the matter. Before his on-air appearance, Dana Walden, co-chairman of Disney Entertainment, spoke to the host about his plan, the people said. After the conversation between Kimmel and Walden, she and other senior executives thought that the star's approach could make the situation worse. People familiar with their conversation said. I mean, one of these issues is that the Kimmel writer's room is a monolith. I don't think there's anybody in there that voices any alternative opinion here and says, maybe we should slow down with this. Again, not a reason for the government to get involved and for the president to be threatening other late night hosts. But there's an element of the right wing that wants this stuff to keep going on. And it's because they felt culturally powerless for a very long time. And they want these institutions to kind of bend the knee to the president. And it's happened in other countries. People bring up Hungary and Viktor Orban and all that stuff. Obviously, people like Putin. Nobody wants to live in a country where a late night comedian is, subject to removal because he says something that the president of the United States doesn't like. Also, here's a sidebar. Is Jimmy Kimmel the deep state? Tulsi Gabbard goes out, who I like, but she goes out and goes, Obama's guilty of treason. And they don't really present a ton of evidence. And then they just drop it. And they move on. And then they go, well, this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy. And then the Epstein files, they all vote to not release them. And then they go, well, Jimmy Kimmel, let's get him out of here. And then, Steve Bannon's got a documentary, 20 hours about Epstein. We'll release that. You got all these hours. Nobody over there, they all think you're really, really dumb. And they're treating you the way you treat a young child who wants something that they're not going to get. You try to distract them with other things. You can see, I don't have kids. I'm around people that have kids all the time, and they'll go, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then you go, hey, what about this? Take a look at that. Isn't this cool? Look, a dog. This is that. This is that. I mean, Kesh Patel is walking around like the most compromised person on earth. If Kesh Patel is not afraid of something, I don't know what fear is. These people are running around. They're going to unmask everything and expose everything and whatever. Again, I wasn't the one who ran on that premise. They were. And none of that has happened. In fact, whatever cover-up's going on, they're extending it. They've now become a part of it. They are helping facilitate it. Every comment under everything these people post is, what the fuck are you doing?
It's true.
Speaking of a 7-Eleven, I don't think Kesh Patel could solve a robbery at a 7-Eleven without fucking it up, by the way. the guy's the head of the FBI. I love Helix. I'm telling you, it's the best mattresses in the world. Everyone that comes and stays with me says, why are these mattresses so great? And I say, it's Helix. You got to go. And this Labor Day sale is amazing. It's too good. I'm telling you right now, you will never regret getting a Helix mattress. It is the best thing that most people are going to have in their house. I'm telling you, everybody's sleep is better with Helix. You get some nice fall air and a Helix. You are good to go. It helps with snoring, back pain, sleep apnea. It helps you sleep through the night. If you sleep too hot, it cools you down. Go to helixsleep.com/TimD. I'm telling you, helixsleep.com/TimD. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. Okay? The Labor Day sale is killer. It's 20% off site-wide. Are we nuts? 25% off site-wide. It just went up 5% in a second. That's how good it is. helixsleep.com/TimD. It doesn't make any sense. I don't care if you hate Jimmy Kimmel. I'm pretty sure this administration, when they came in and they were talking about America first, they weren't talking about Jimmy Kimmel. But this is how they distract you from what's actually going on. Let's get rid of Jimmy Kimmel because he's pissed us off. By the way, Sam Altman, let's give him more and more money because we're in an AI arms race. Well, who does that help? Not very, I don't know, 20 people? 20 Trump voters? And they were all at that dinner in D.C.? You know? Is your life better? Are you making more money? Do you feel better? Do you feel financially more stable? Are you excited about the Israeli real estate project in Gaza? Does that get you going? Do the renderings make you happy? Get the renderings up again. Do the renderings make you happy? You don't have health care. Do the renderings do it for you? They're nice renderings. But does that make you excited? Is that what you voted for? Is that what you're happy about? Is this what you're excited about? Do you show them to friends of yours who have recently lost their jobs? Do you show them the renderings and go, take a look at that? That's going to be pretty fucking nice. Imagine that. Some of them you could walk right to the beach. They'll probably have a long boardwalk. You go right to the beach. That's what this is about. This city of the future that's being built on the mass grave of all of these people that we're funding, that's what it's about. An AI city of the future built on a mass grave. You're funding that. Oh, Jimmy Kimmel said a joke that people don't like. Let's see what this is. We're not even a year into this administration. It's very obvious that this whole thing, the wheels are coming off. Tucker Carlson's become a liberal hero. Is that because things are going well? Is that because things are going well? Is that happening because things have gone in the right direction? It's wild to watch. Every liberal friend I know in LA, okay, cocoons themselves in a blanket, drinks a matcha, and watches Candace Owens for 19 hours a day. And I like Candace. But is that because they're doing a great job in Washington? Is that because things are going well? You know? You know what I mean? I'm just telling you, you have a situation here that's starting to look more and more like a very big op that a lot of people are going to be easily distracted by Jimmy Kimmel or whatever. We're still in the Ukraine war. We're still doing this. We're going into World War III. I imagine we're going into World War III. How do you get out of this without World War III? How do you get out of the levels of corruption being exposed without a world war? I hope we do. It would be nice to, but how do you get out of it? It's clear that a lot of people want a wider regional conflict. I think Netanyahu does. I think Putin does. And it would be nice if there was someone in our country who didn't. I mean, I don't know, but we're heading. You can feel it. The pieces are coming together. We see different parts of the world aligning economically. We'll see it militarily. We see a lot of things happening that we don't have. There's not a ton of significance to some of these events, but there will be later when you look back and you go, yeah, that wasn't good. That wasn't great. That didn't make a lot of sense. Russian warplanes breached NATO airspace in dangerous provocation over Estonia. Israel's bombing like 12 countries a day. We've got problems, all over the world. We have a pamphlet being handed out, I believe, in Taiwan saying, everybody get ready. Get ready, everybody. Taiwan issues handbook to prepare citizens for Chinese invasion. What a lovely read. What a nice read. Get ready. They're coming. So, during all of this is happening. We're talking to Jimmy Kimmel. Talking about Jimmy Kimmel. And it's important to talk about. It's important to talk about me being fired from Riyadh. It's the most important thing, perhaps, next to the World War III, And the fact that the people in charge of the country believe it's their job to colonize Mars and make us an interplanetary species, and you're not getting a knee operation. You're not getting a knee operation before they make us an interplanetary species and colonize Mars. And a lot of people in America think it's cool. They think it's cool. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I don't know what to tell you. It's the wildest time that I've been alive, including COVID. And somehow, there's more of an eerie feeling now than COVID. Somehow it feels like we're waiting for something to happen. I don't know what it is. It feels like that. And not in a crazy, Fibonacci sequence. What are the numbers? What are the dates? Not in that way, but just in a general sense of malaise that people have. People have this. You talk to people about it. You go, how does it feel? Nobody feels good. Nobody feels great about this. We aren't listen, we've probably never been in control. Now it's obvious how little control we're in. It's really obvious. There's a group of people, there's a group of oligarchs, there's a lot of highly placed interests that all have agendas, and they're all breaking bread, and they're all carving it up. And and most people in this country don't have much of a say, and you just gotta hope that they have your best interest at heart. You just gotta hope that that you figure into their grand plan. When Peter Thiel or Sam Altman or any of these people, or Bezos or any of these guys talk, Zuckerberg, when any of them speak, you just have to hope that they're thinking about you. They're thinking about you and your family and your ability to pay for things. They're already going out and going, don't own a house. It's not for you. Doesn't make sense. Buy stock. Buy crypto. Why would you own a house? By the way, not owning a house hurts your social life. You can't have people over. You can't sit in the backyard with people. You can't talk to them. You can't go, hey, what's going on here? You can't share experiences with them. You live in a tiny apartment. You're embarrassed about it. Nobody comes over. There are no social bonds. That's the point. That's the point. You don't get to talk about the future of your community. That's exactly the point. You just sit there in your tiny little apartment. I have friends in New York, and I did this for years. When I was doing comedy, you sit in your tiny little apartment in New York City, or whatever city, by the way, Cleveland, doesn't matter. You sit in this little apartment, You don't have anyone over, and you consume the internet. Get online more and more and more and more. It's a tiny little cell that you live in, and then you radicalize yourself on the internet. Some of us are schizophrenics, go do crazy things, then the draconian surveillance and police state comes in. They don't have an interest in people having a yard. They don't want you outside. They don't want you outside. It doesn't help them out. Putting your phone on, in a drawer and going outside and sitting down with 6 people and having dinner and talking about your community isn't helpful to them.
You in it for life, huh?
It doesn't make any sense. They want you on the phone in a cell that you rent. They want you paying more and more money every year for a cell. And all of these companies related. All of these mega conglomerate corporate landlords. Everything's a mall. They build these malls, and then on top of them, they have apartments that cost $6,000 a month to live on top of insomnia cookies. Pig. Well, DoorDash is really easy. They just throw the cookie in the window. It's disgusting. No one should live like this. No one's supposed to live like this. And everybody thinks it's okay or it's whatever. What did Jimmy Kimmel say? You're paying a lot of money to live in a cell. You can't have friends over. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting for most of you to have your friends to your apartment. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. I've been there. I couldn't have my friends to my apartment, and my friends are animals. And it was still embarrassing to have your friends in your apartment because it's a tiny little apartment. You've got a corner of dirty clothes. You have a takeout in the garbage. It is you live in a cell. And then the behaviors of someone who lives in a cell are what they want. Someone who can sit in their backyard and have a glass of wine and invite the neighbors over and go, what's going on? How are you? What do we feel? What's going on in the schools? What's going on in our society? They don't want that. They want you to be afraid of your neighbors. They want your neighbor to scare you. That's what they like. They like the idea that your neighbor terrifies you. I have neighbors, they scare me. I don't want to see them. I hope I don't see them. That's how you destroy an entire country. You don't just do it. You do it with the way people live. This is the way you destroy a country. You make everybody afraid of their neighbors, fearful. You tell everyone don't assimilate at all. You don't have to. In fact, we don't want you to. We don't want you making friends with anyone. Why would you assimilate? Speak your own language. Have your own customs. Do your own thing. Don't go near anyone else. Don't assimilate. Don't become an American. Don't think like a free American person. Live in the cell. There's a cupcake ATM. Get the cupcake out of the ATM. You have to plan for the unexpected. It's so important, and especially for your family, your children, husband, wife. Ethos. You can get life insurance in minutes, not months. There's no complicated process, 100% online. No medical exam required. You just answer a few health questions. Get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. You can get same-day coverage without ever leaving your house. Life insurance is more affordable than you think. With Ethos, you can get a free quote and customized rate. It fits your budget. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies as low as $2 a day. Billed month with Ethos is a trustworthy company that disrupts the traditional life insurance industry. As of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. 3 million families have completed their applications and trusted Ethos to help find the right coverage. Ethos has 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 2,400 reviews. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/TIM. That's ETHOS.com/TIM. Many people are struggling with hair loss, and I'm telling you the best way to handle it is Nutrafol. Nutrafol is #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement trusted by over 1.5 million people. You can feel great about what you're putting into your body since Nutrafol hair growth supplements are backed by peer-reviewed studies and NSF content certified, the gold standard and third-party certification for supplements. I'm telling you, see thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Tim Dillon. Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code Tim Dillon. That's Nutrafol, promo code Tim Dillon, TIMDILLON. It really is just the way people live. So when these billionaires are telling you you don't need to own a house, it's not just that they don't think it's a good financial investment. Their interests are not served by you having block parties and seeing other people. They'd rather you live in a cell where people bring you Thai food and you watch YouTube videos about people or reality shows about people that do have homes. That's what people do. People in Los Angeles go to their cell on top of a P.F. Chang's, eat those lettuce wraps, which are good, and then watch reality shows about people that can afford to have a home. That's pornography now. You come thinking about having a place to see your friends. But they don't want you to have any friends. They don't want communities. It's the hollowing out of the entire thing that serves their purposes. And the only thing left is the bread and circuses and the Kimmels and the this and the that. It's the only thing left. And you're radicalized easily one way or the other, and they're pulling strings because you have less and less of your own shit. You don't have a community.
Give me that grip.
You live in some global world where, like, every single thing is the most important thing. And then you go online and go, my take, and you're supposed to care about shit that's like in a 10-block radius of where you live.
That's mine.
You're not supposed to be involved in the Middle East. You're not supposed to be funding a real estate project in a place you've never been, in Gaza. It's not natural. It's insane. You're just not supposed to do that. You're supposed to care about things. You're supposed to know who got murdered 2 blocks away. Why did that person get murdered? You're supposed to know that. You're supposed to be interested in the crime in your area. Why? Because you live there. But now that there doesn't exist. It's malls and cupcake ATMs. It's fucking, private equity companies that build, mega structures that look like storage lockers, and you just sit there and get mad all day on the internet, and you don't know your neighbors, and you don't care if they get murdered. In fact, you might want them to. You have no stake in the game. And all of this isn't new, and it's being expedited at a level I've never seen. It has never been more obvious that they are trying to get rid of human beings and human relationships and human communities at an incredibly fast clip. Human behavior puzzles them. Sam Altman doesn't know what humans do. Sam Altman's confused by human behavior. He doesn't get it. He finds it inefficient and messy. It perplexes him. Okay? This is, and allegedly, that guy that worked for him died in a real weird way. Okay? And Sam Altman, when Tucker pressed him about that, acted like I did when my doctor asked me if I went to McDonald's. So let's get real here. These people don't care, and they think human behavior is a problem. Cultural practices that they don't understand. They don't understand people going to church. They don't understand festivals and fairs. They don't understand people having a community where they exchange goods and services in physical locations. They don't understand people that care. Their job is to make you terrified and broke. They want you on the Citizen app. They don't want another person telling you, hear what happened to Bob? They don't want that interaction happening. They want you on the Citizen app all day, hearing about crime that you don't care about because your communities aren't tight-knit communities where people know and care about each other. They're strange corporate hellscapes filled with like part-time residents and they've turned every city in this country into a foreign Dubai like Disney Wonderland where people can launder money and then take a bunch of laundered drug money and go buy Labubu smoothies at Erewhon. They don't want anything resembling life. It's obvious they don't want anything resembling human life. You're supposed to just walk around and participate in some viral scam. That's the only reason you exist to these people. The only reason you exist to Sam Altman is so that he can monitor you in some way and that you can take part, wittingly or unwittingly, in some viral scam that someone's cooked up. That you can buy some food item or little critter or cryptocurrency that someone is hawking. That is the sum total of your humanity to these people. Why buy a house? You don't need a house. What a bad investment. What does that word even mean? Investment? What are you talking about? You know what's a really good investment? Sitting there with 7 people in your backyard having dinner and talking about life. They don't want it. It's a threat to them. It's actually a big problem. So I mean, it's at a tremendous clip. It's the frequency of which this is happening, how quickly it's happening, everywhere. It's not just any one thing. It's architecture. It's business. It's political. It's cultural. But really, at the end of the day, it's all of these things working together to take you out of the world and put you on the internet, where they want you to live. You're a view. You're an anonymous source of data. You're something to be marketed or terrified, but they don't consider you a person with inalienable rights. They don't consider you in any form of reflection of God or greater intelligence outside of the thing that they're going to create. They consider you an obstacle, and that the way you live is an obstacle to their ultimate goals. That's what they consider you. You are something that's in the way. Your football game and your a couple of beers outside, or you invite people over to your home, your family, your faith, your community, your culture, your all of this to them. And I don't care if it's liberal or conservative. I don't care if you're a fundamentalist Christian. I don't care if you're Jewish, Muslim. I don't care if you're an atheist. I don't care if you do the winter solstice. They don't either. Their entire thing is to get rid of physical communities that are based around these things and usher people into a digital landscape by telling them not to own houses, not to drive cars, not to own things, to use ride shares, to be on the internet, to live in a cell, and to be happy. It is what it is. You'll own nothing and be happy. It's a famous article. We all bring it up. But it's true. And
like a vacuum cleaner,
what
bro.
Jimmy Kimmel says,
They're trying to turn you into a vacuum
at the end
cleaner.
of the day, doesn't really affect your life in the way that you think it does. He should have a right to say it. He should be criticized for saying it. People should attack him on the facts, not physically. You should attack the facts because they weren't present in what he said. Okay? But there's something bigger going on, and everyone feels it, and it worries me that other people don't. There's something bigger going on all over the country, and it's not about Jimmy Kimmel, and it's not really about left versus right. It's about this inertia that's moving humanity into a perpetual state of constant war, depression, anxiety, anger. I'm not proselytizing. I'm not telling you to do this or do that. I'm not saying to you that you can only find meaning in life one way. I believe there's many ways to find meaning in life. However, it's clearly obvious that the algorithms are manipulating us to hate each other and kill each other while everyone else is building resorts in other places of the world, in Gaza, in Qatar. They'll be building them in the Ukraine soon. Watch. And all the while, your life gets worse. You become angry. You lack the ability to live the life your parents did or their parents did. And all they have to say to you is how lucky you are. How lucky you are that you don't live in a place like China. Wow, how lucky you are that you don't live in a place like China, as they make America more like China every hour. So, you know, you just have to understand what's happening. You have to resist it in the ways that you can. Don't listen to them when they tell you not to buy a house. Don't listen to them. Do not listen to them when they tell you that it's worthless to have a patch of dirt and grass and friends and a community. It's absolutely not worthless. In fact, it's the only thing that may save you. Don't tell them it's worthless to learn how to cook or grow food or be sufficient because everything is at the click of a button. Don't tell them that it's worthless. I mean, don't listen to them when they say that it is worthless to try to see the humanity in somebody who doesn't agree with you. You know, it really is disturbing. The people right now that run the show are not people. They make these mistakes. They do these interviews. Guys, someone keep them behind closed doors. They keep being interviewed. Frankensteins keep coming out to be interviewed. I think Frankenstein was actually good. I didn't read that book. Was Frankenstein good?
Yes.
Yes. Well, that's not what I mean then. Who was bad then at Frankenstein? The mob?
Yes.
All right. That doesn't apply here. Why did they fire me? It's not fair. But what I'm telling you is this. Take a minute. Charlie Kirk was a human being. He was not a dangerous radical. You may not have agreed with him. Who gives a fuck? The guy was a human being. You have to rediscover that you are a human being as well. You don't have to like me. You don't have to think I'm good. You can hate me. You know, I'd like if you didn't shoot me, but, you know, at the end of the day, getting rid of human communities, replacing them with digital communities that are created via hate and algorithms and moving people out of these physical places and destroying the bonds we have with each other. Be very suspicious of people who tell you to not own a home. Be very suspicious of people that tell you they talk about investments and they own 12. Be very suspicious of all these people. And I've been saying things like this for a long time, but it does feel now that we're getting to the point where we're getting close to the point of no return. And if we're easily distracted and we're just fighting each other, we're not going to be able to demand that we stay human because there are interests and agendas operating at very high levels that want to rob us of our humanity, and they're winning and they're succeeding. I hope everyone has fun at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. I will continue to live like a Saudi in my own country because I can. I am now fully with Iran against Saudi Arabia. I didn't want it to be this way, but it is. Alliances shift constantly. This is the game. This is the game. I hope everyone enjoys it. And if you're a Saudi, I hope you continue to listen to the program. Continue to listen. Continue to support us here. And again, it's no reflection on you. I blame a few people who ended up being cowardly. I do not blame the Saudi people. Even the executioner who's doing the beheading. I don't even blame you. I don't blame you with the mask on doing the beheading. I don't blame you. I actually don't blame you. I don't blame you. Truly, I don't blame you. Okay? I blame Joker too.
Now things are starting to make a little sense. Switch over to nano communication so nobody can listen in.
Yes, sir. Do you read me, sir?
Yes.
Mr. President, it's my understanding that the terrorists have managed to input the code sequence necessary for launching a nuclear strike.
That's correct. I punched the sequence in myself.
You're working for them?
If you asked me 2 hours ago, my answer would have been yes. Right now, they're keeping me alive until my vital signs are reconfirmed.
They betrayed you?
I wouldn't quite put it that way. I wanted power. They sought destruction.
But why stoop to terrorism?
I wanted absolute power.
But you're the president. You have power.
No, I'm just a figurehead.
Huh?
I don't have any control. The real power is in the Patriots' hands.
The Patriots?
The truth behind this country. I'm not surprised you've never heard of them. Very few are aware of their existence, even among those with code word clearance.
Huh?
Politics, the military, the economy, they control it all. They even choose who becomes president. Putting it simply, the Patriots rule this country.
No.
Hard to believe, isn't it? But it's the truth. The space defense, income tax reduction, and national missile defense programs. Every policy that's been credited to me was actually done according to their instructions.
Space defense was initiated by Congress.
That's what the Patriots want the country to believe. It's all a show. Democracy is just a filler for textbooks. Think about it. Do you actually believe that public opinion influences the government?
No.
This country is shaped and controlled as the Patriots see fit. The people are shown what they want to believe. What you call government is actually a well-staged production aimed at satisfying the public.
Huh?
Don't look at me like that. I'm legally sane, you know.
It's not your sanity that worries me.
The Patriots. Even I don't know who the actual members are. Are they financial, political, or military leaders? No one knows who the Patriots really are. Even my instructions come from a cutout. All I've been told is that every key decision is made by a group of 12 men, known as the Wise Men's Committee.
Your office? The White House?
Merely puppets, pawns in a game. By pledging my loyalty, an insignificant son of a senator was awarded the presidency. Of course, that wasn't the only price I had to pay.
What do you mean?
Even if a pawn becomes a queen, it is still just a playing piece. I wanted to leave my own mark in history, but my ambitions were... You'll understand someday. I wished to be a member of the Patriots. I wanted to wield the power of a king instead of being an expendable pawn.
And that justifies acts of terrorism?
Yes. I'd intended to use the new Metal Gear as a bargaining chip.
Bargaining chip?
But I underestimated Solidus. He actually wants to challenge the Patriots, even if it means the destruction of the world.
What are you saying?
Whether you believe it or not, the balance of power rests in the hands of the Patriots. They regulate the country's various interests through controlled presentation, staging a drama that is palatable to the general masses. Can you imagine what would happen if they ceased to function? Picture a massive political vacuum, a space that every powermonger will try to fill for their own greedy ends. I'm talking about an unregulated power struggle, panic, civil war, chaos. Like it or not, the Patriots is an organization that must continue to exist.
So you changed your mind because you wanted to avoid global chaos.
Exactly. When I told Solidus that I wished to prevent disaster, he replied that pawns can never become players.
And who is this Solidus?
My predecessor, George Sears. That was the name the public came to know him by. I knew him by his code name, Solidus Snake. He was the third snake, preceded by Solid and Liquid, a survivor of the Les Enfants Terribles project. Neither solid nor liquid, he was a well-balanced masterpiece that the Patriots saw it fit to entrust with the presidency. However, he fell out of grace with the organization 4 years ago. When acting on his own, he started an incident.
4 years ago. Shadow Moses.
That's right. At the time, the DARPA chief, Donald Anderson, together with certain influential parties, initiated the development of Metal Gear Rex and an advanced nuclear warhead. However, this did not fall in line with the Patriots' plans. What's more, Solidus decided on his own to send his most trusted man, Ocelot, to provoke Liquid Snake, bringing about the said incident. As a result, he succeeded in obtaining Rex and the data on the warhead. But in doing so, he ended up revealing the existence of both Rex and the Genome Army, a blunder that earned him the wrath of the Patriots. Shortly thereafter, Solidus was removed from the presidential office.
I thought he resigned.
That's the story given to the general public. Following his resignation, the Patriots selected me, their new pawn, for the presidency.
But that would mean that the presidential race was...
That was quite a show, wasn't it? It was a well-scripted drama staged by the Patriots for the benefit of the public. Even the Democrats and Republicans were dancing to the Patriots' tune. Everything went according to plan, but for one exception. Following his resignation, Solidus' health was scheduled to fail him, bringing about his untimely death.
Capped?
Correct. But before the Patriots could execute their plot, Solidus went underground with the help of Ocelot. As he avoided pursuit, Solidus gained control of Dead Cell, winning over Colonel Galukovich's outfit. From there, he bided his time, knowing that his opportunity would soon arrive.
What opportunity?
The completion of the new Metal Gear project, an opportunity that would even his odds against the Patriots. By stealing the Patriots' most valued project, he would be able to place them in a very uncomfortable position. It's the only chance he has for survival. Once he has the new Metal Gear, he'll declare war against the Patriots. Needless to say, he must be stopped.
Metal Gear is already operational.
No, not yet. What you saw was Metal Gear Ray, hijacked 2 years ago from the Marines by Ocelot. That was not the new Metal Gear.
Then where's the new Metal Gear?
Right here.
What?
You're standing in it. To be more precise, this entire big shell facility is the new Metal Gear.
What'd you say?
No, I'm quite serious. The upper structure that you've seen is camouflage, designed to represent an offshore cleanup facility. The main structure extends from the foundation all the way down to the ocean floor. The connecting elevator is located on the B2 floor of the Shell 1 core. Arsenal Gear. That's the code name for the new Metal Gear.
Arsenal?
That's right. Arsenal. We're talking about an impregnable fortress carrying a load of over a couple of thousand missiles, including nuclear warheads, all protected by a horde of mass-produced Metal Gear Ray units.
Mass-produced?
The Ray unit was originally designed for the Marines to be used as a countermeasure against the Metal Gear variations throughout the world. The Patriots had Ray redesigned to protect the new Arsenal Gear.
So now anti-Metal Gears are guarding a Metal Gear.
Ironic, isn't it? That's not all. Arsenal Gear has full access to the military's tactical network, giving it the ability to exercise absolute control over our nation's armed forces, not to mention our nuclear armament. In short, Arsenal was created to be the core of our country.
What kind of idiotic weapon?
Weapon? No. You're not seeing the full picture. Arsenal Gear is more than just a military tool.
Let's roll. Hey, Playboy, watch that.
It is a means to preserve the world as it is. It will establish a new form of control. The Patriots will use it to keep their place as the country's true rulers. Right now, they feel pressured and threatened.
By what?
They fear an overabundance of digital information. The world will drown in the coming flood of information, and they along with it.
Everything looks
Yeah, what you
fake.
doing, dude?
Everything looks fake.
That's
and
true.
Charlie Kirk, I wanted to not see it, but I clicked something else that showed it.
Yeah.
And it, dude, my set was fucked. Dude, that was one of the most horrible things I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Yeah.
You saw that dude's soul go out of his fucking body in one instant, and if you didn't know it was real, it would look fake.
Yeah.
And so everything looks fake, okay? I mean, like, Joe DeRosa showed, I thought you showed me a picture of Tupac supposedly being alive way before AI was a thing, okay? And by the way, the picture is of Tupac, but because, well, officially he's dead, so that's got to be fake. It doesn't matter the pictures. Do you understand?
Right,
Once you're locked into what you think is reasonable in your Overton fucking window, you're locked in. And right now is a bad time. Here's what everybody senses, even if they don't go as far as I do. They all they're destabilized. So in the midst of destabilization, that's when all these fucking snakes are going to come in with the extra bullshit narratives, right? And then people go, well, how are you supposed to know? I don't think it's that hard to know, honestly. You don't have no discernment? Here, you know them by the fruits of their works, is the scripture, and it's right. You know the tree by its fruit. Oh, shit grew on this tree. This is a shit tree.
So
let's look at our foreign policy. Did you see anything good from it? Or a big shit tree?
It's also instinct, right? Like, it's, I think, a very interesting concept of whatever we want to call it, woke, want to call it this cultural revolution that we've lived through. One of the key markers is to eliminate inherent bias. This is something they try to teach all these kids.
You should.
Eliminate inherent bias. That used to be called instinct.
I got to get Jesse on. Fuck. So, Jesse Michaels just talked to Charles Hall, the tall white guy.
Power on Jesse Michaels. I wish Jesse Michaels hadn't hyped up the DNA test of the Peruvian mummies, because it was just the same old DNA test. And that was.
Let me tell you something. Because I went and crashed his podcast, and I went there with him and Jay from Project Unity finds some very interesting things too. I must say, we went shooting stuff after. But I want to scam people and see what they're about, in person. I'm very interrogative. I'm pretty relentless, actually, because I just want to see what you do when I say things to you and how you react to me. Jesse's a dude that's into it, and he's from a very good family. And I got news for you: all the people that have good production values are, and it's just like at Charlie Kirk. I had not realized the sincerity level of that guy, which he's a martyr for free speech. Straight up he is. Yeah. And when he started going against his controllers, things went bad for him. And
you think Jesse Michaels has controllers? You think Jesse Michaels has controllers? Or funders?
No, but I think if you dude, I don't know who your friends and family are, how close you are. I was a Jehovah's Witness, so if you leave that, everybody that you knew was going to not talk to you, really, Sure. But social death is worse than death. Social death is worse than death. In fact, when Tracy talks about the serpent initiating Eve into the mysteries of death, I may say on the last one, or I said it on Ray's podcast when we did. I think we don't know what death is, I think we don't understand. Maybe death is a spectrum like gender. And there's levels of it. There's levels of it. And you don't really know what anything is because it's all based on a translation of something. And they pass messages. I can't remember what the operation is called, but these are like the first iPhones, but they're fucking people.
I feel like Trevor Moore used to poke fun at this stuff,
and
right?
he's gone now.
He's dead, yeah. They killed him.
Do you think so? Do you think they killed him?
Listen, man.
He might have fought. Look, supposedly he was drunk and fell off something, and this is a 4 o'clock podcast for me.
Yeah, so we're getting the truth right now.
People don't want to know or even conceive, think about a thing like what I would think about now, but once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, I think that there's something. They definitely kill people. We know that. I like to start at a base level of we know that if you start speaking on certain things.
Oh, also we know they've released the information they did do this program. Also, I just want to throw this out there: the NSA archives,
right?
MK Ultra, all the shit.
It's
Monarch
all real.
was a real thing. If you look up what Monarch is, it's real fucked up.
Well, you're familiar with what the FBI did, and they tried to get MLK to kill himself. They tried to convince him he was crazy.
Right.
And that this has been declassified for people that don't know. They would plant speakers in his hotel rooms, and they would whisper things in these speakers, and then they would have handlers go in, and they would have these whispers happening while there were other people in the room, and MLK would be like, "Do you hear that?" And they'd be like, "Hear what?" And they would gaslight this dude into thinking he was losing his mind.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but then you know,
That's so petty.
Some good old dirty.
That's so petty.
Cheating. Same way Cuba, what's his name did with dirty ass pussy. You get through dinner, I get out of there, I come back a little later, take a little bit of a tour around the goods, if you know what I'm saying.
For sure. I get it. It's not gay if there's no people
A
watching.
little bit of a Bill Maher trip around the moon, if you know what I mean.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Complain about pronouns while I'm engaged with
Right.
trans.
Yes, I get it. You're
Black trans, Bill Maher style.
Yeah.
Bill Maher likes him black and trans.
Yes.
Understand that? That's real judge gossip that I have.
That's what I hear. You're saying Bill Maher has sex with black transgender.
Oh, that's real gossip I got from my contact in Berlin.
Well, that's right.
That's real, all real. He's a magician.
Yeah.
Well, this makes sense. But Bill Maher, like, you knew he liked black hookers, but he likes black trans hookers.
Okay.
Apparently, this is the gossip. I can't confirm it, but I am a judge.
Okay.
He complains about pronouns a lot to them, and they hate him.
That's fair. I think that's
the messages I got.
I think this is a very good answer. Trey, what do you have?
Well, as you know, Dave, I don't see gender.
I know you don't.
So I don't see anything.
I thought you were blind. Those look like blind man sunglasses.
Yeah. I don't see gender. I don't see anything. And so I just would never get caught disrespecting anybody because, I just assume everyone is nothing. And that's why I've never assaulted a woman legally.
You go out there in the dark. If you do a Ray Charles,
You've only illegally assaulted.
Let me tell you why this is great. Maybe he did, because if you know the story of debt peonage, right? How the last slave was officially freed in 1942. Hey, don't keep up. You know that, right?
No.
Officially, the final slave was freed in 1942. So after slavery, it's not funny, but I mean it is. They fucking did a thing called debt peonage, which means like you get arrested for some bullshit, like vagrancy or whatever, or some bullshit ordinance, and they got to deal with the local plantation owner. And you go to court, and it's like, that'll be $75. And you're like, I don't have that kind of money. And then a guy goes, excuse me, Your Honor, I run a plantation. He can work off his... And they put you in a goddamn slave quarters.
That's like indentured servitude from years.
Debt peonage, it's called. Let me tell you why this is great.
Yeah.
Look, I can tell you're on the fence about it, but let me sell you on it. You could... One of the best parts of it is you can put white people on the plantation, too. That's like double the slave power. Anyway, it went on for quite some time, like a very long time, up until around 1942. And it was because some white rich kid was like doing a road trip or some bullshit, and he, got sold into slavery and died on the slave. And they were like, "This happened to a white guy." I mean, that is outrageous. And so then, this is my favorite part of the whole thing. Their defense, because I think it might have been made illegal or something already. But what happened was Japan was using propaganda. So their defense about debt peonage, which people were like, this isn't cool. They go, no, Your Honor, this is just slavery. Because you can have a slave if you're a prisoner. That's, state property, et cetera, et cetera. So their defense for the immoral act of debt peonage they're being accused of, they used the old slavery defense. And Japan was using it as propaganda. So you find the newspaper article about they finally freed this guy, some old black guy that been a slave. It's fucking crazy what happened to this guy, by the way. And they're going, finally, Japan, they freed this guy, and Japan can stop using it as Putin propaganda. That's what the newspapers had, because it was, it was a bad look while we're condemning Japan. I mean, unbelievable, dude. So officially, that's the last slave. Have you ever heard of Charles Hall?
No.
Okay, if you haven't heard of him, find him, the testimony of Charles C. Hall. But he was stationed at Dreamland as a weather balloon operator, and nothing he did was top secret. This is what he specifies, which caught my ear when I first heard it. He goes, no, I was never briefed, and no one debriefed me, and no one gave me any explanation. This is what I figured out from being out there. And now, if I had written anything down, somebody would have killed me.
Damn.
Or the tall whites would have. And he described this race of extraterrestrials called the tall whites. And they're not the Nordics or with the blonde. They're tall albinos that if, like, when they're younger, they're like 6 feet tall. When they're older, they're like 8 feet tall. They're very skinny.
Right.
We heal like Wolverine compared to them. If they get a scratch, they don't heal how we do.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He said we're strong as gorillas compared to them, physically. The way he goes, they're not here to save the whale. No environmental shit from them. It sounded like we were Guam. So they were landing and they were trading stuff, and literally like the stuff they were trading, they didn't want us knowing the secrets of how they got around. They had like the best tech for that, and they can only come on a full moon because of a certain gravity. And by the way, the guy's a nuclear physicist who was stationed. So keep in mind, there's a very
white guy.
Charles All Whites. Oh yeah.
Is this the thing where what podcast was it where they showed this indigenous people a picture of like
that's the ant people. I was on with Jesse and that dude Jay from Project Unity. I haven't talked to him about, but that guy finds some good shit. But he had a story about the ant people. It's out. They showed the picture of like the Joe Rogan aliens from the club, and they go, "Oh, these ant people. Yeah, they go under. They come up from the ground and they give you stuff and like do not trust them." Well, so it's because I think like a poor person. Naturally, you go, "Oh, well, that means us," but there's no us. So the war on drugs is a good example. Had they call it the failed drug war. It was not a failure at all. It was a resounding success because the war was to take over all the drug trafficking, and they did. Okay? In the 90s, Bill Clinton of the MENA drug cartel of Arkansas. All those movies about that where Tom Cruise is the guy smuggling coke. Bill Clinton and his dipshit brother were instrumental in that, and that was for George Bush. The dad, who was Bill Clinton's mentor. Remember how they didn't like each other, I thought?
It kind of creates like a power vacuum similar to like ISIS being created. It's like they created fentanyl in that way.
Well, Iran was killing ISIS, but the thing is, we need ISIS to help us in Syria where we installed Al-Qaeda. Everybody, like, dude...
Do you think there's an end to that?
They're going to make sure they get to it. I don't. Of course there is. I don't know what it'll be, but I know that.
Like in 200 years, do you think America should or will be?
I wouldn't predict anything like that. First of all, I don't give a shit.
Do you think the leaders are thinking that way, though? Do you think, like, I know China thinks in really long term. Like, whereas, because America's all like 4 years.
You brought up 1984? Okay, so the idea that they don't think long term is a lie.
Who?
America. Of course, our politicians who are WWE wrestlers for the most part, and I mean, I'm not saying it isn't going to be funny. They are. It's ridiculous. There's going to be a hearing where you yelled at Fauci. Yeah, Fauci, you look like a dick. What's going to happen to Fauci? Nothing. What was the point of this? Cory Booker just talked.
So, but you do think they're doing thinking long term?
Yeah, this ain't incompetence. It's malice. And the reason I know is 1984. You know, they go, how did he guess the future? They didn't guess the fucking future. They went to good schools and they hung around the people. And their plan, like on The Simpsons, how did The Simpsons predict? Most of the Simpsons writers, when Conan and all, those are Harvard people. The people that pull the levers of power go to Harvard. So you just absorb the plan just being around the wealthy.
Right.
So this is what's so funny. It's not they're predicting shit. It's that you are artificially 20 years behind them at all times, and it's going to stay like that. And America, and like Canada's probably been that for a while, but America's a shell company that they've extracted the wealth, or that was the plan. Now,
So
I hadn't heard that detail
Do you know what
before.
I'm talking about or no? Do you know what this is in reference to?
Yes.
They had these indigenous...
It's not the ant people, though.
It's not the ant
The
people.
Greys, whatever, the Greys are ant
The Greys.
The tall whites I only heard of first in 2011 in an article, because I would be writing monologue jokes, right? So I'd need like wacky news, so I'd get the week.
Sure.
And I would go through the wacky news, and a Farsi language Iranian newspaper said Obama is in league with extraterrestrials called the tall whites. Okay? And I was like, I never heard of the tall whites. It sounds like a losing basketball team. That's all. Yo, Speedweed from Y-Files wrote that joke for me, he said.
The Duke Tall Whites.
Well, when you listen to it, and so they're like uncanny valley looking.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to listen to it because it didn't sound like anything I've ever heard before. So that's all I'm listening for is if you tell me a new story I ain't heard yet, because I feel like I've heard them all at this point.
Yeah. But what is it? What's the connection between that and like I guess being an empty vessel? Like, why is it so many celebrities?
Also, the
Because they
demonic thing,
programmed
the
him with
demonic
MK
concept.
fucking Monarch. That's why. MK Monarch is a thing. I don't know. I'm saying it to you, but
yeah, right.
it's,
yeah, I believe
no,
you.
it's not Ultra. I said Monarch. It's been disclosed.
Oh,
they used to
right.
say Wikipedia probably says it's fake still. However, the NSA archives, we found out from a guest on Jimmy's show, and I'm really into this, and I was blown away. This is how much they don't got to hide nothing.
Yeah.
Juliet, I'm forgetting her last name. I'm never on my show, but she goes, oh, and I go, they said the name Monarch, and when they disclose, oh yes, send me the link. Yep, it's in there. And go, do you want to die on that hill? And that's why I gotta say, Charlie Kirk, I was wrong about him because that motherfucker did die on that hill. I think
literally died on that.
I think that guy. It's wild. He is a martyr for free speech because he did believe in that shit at the end of the day.
I mean,
And
he
gave his opponents a microphone. That's the part that
Yeah.
is painful for all of us in this room and what we do.
Oh yeah.
Right? This is a guy who he didn't try to cancel anybody, but they tried to cancel him. They tried to demonetize him. They sued him. They hurled allegations at him. He's been called a racist. He's been called a sexist, a misogynist. And the propaganda is so powerful. And this goes back to something Kurt was talking about way earlier before, where you don't actually need the MK Ultra, which, sidebar, a lot of this stuff has been it's been released in FOIA requests, like remote viewing. The CIA admits that they do it.
They admitted that.
Which is that you feel like that should be headline news. We should all be talking about the fact that they have remote viewers.
If it don't look like movie shit, it's not real.
Yeah,
George Clooney had
never had fucking
George Clooney. Wait, the George Clooney movie, the Men Who Stare at Goats. Isn't that what that was?
It is. I know somebody.
John Ronson, the guy who wrote the book, and the book is not like that movie. Okay, and that's a real fucking program. They have to, dude. That's why the Epstein
Astral
files
projection
are never coming out. The UFO shit will never be disclosed.
They just showed us a
because
new
they
UFO
can't
thing.
tell you ever.
Did you see the missile bouncing off of the thing?
Yeah, if you,
But isn't it crazy? Like, doesn't it? It's always a potato on a piece of construction paper, right? We were able to see the actual blood cells come out of Charlie Kirk's neck in HD.
Yeah.
But every time there's a UAP, it's a fucking potato on construction paper.
It's just
It looks
arcade
like
space.
For those that don't know, Bob Hope was named basically as a MK Ultra monarch slave for Hollywood. Later on in some of these books, Kathy O'Brien,
he was an owner.
Yeah, of some of these MK Ultra victims, allegedly. But he openly worked with the U.S. military and their propaganda department really from his inception.
So his UFO shows, I realized this because I was like, I don't really know what hypnosis is too much. Okay, it mixes hypnosis, but what is it? And then I realized, it's like everything around us all the time. It's a hypnotic script. So the news, they repeat the same phrase over and over, like democracy. But 12 hours of a hypnotic phrase. Democracy's on the ballot, right? Bob Hope, he would do unfunny jokes. The audience has to laugh. He's like a human sign that says laugh, and they have to do it. So I'm pretty sure he was doing some kind of thing. I mean, I've seen it firsthand when people are sitting there in a TV audience and they're told to do it, they'll do stuff, right? But he probably was one-on-one hypnotizing people. And then he'd do that stupid golf swing, remember?
Well, listen, man.
I think that's I think that's part of his hypnotic script, honestly.
Maybe even cues, but let's talk about
it's
that for a
unfunny,
minute.
droning shit. Wait.
Because it was weird. Like, we're about the same age. And the things that I remember about Bob Hope, Johnny Carson used to do, the old golf swing. You'd always see these kind of like older comedian guys doing that. Always about
they do the Illuminati eye. No.
Well, they'd be always around much younger women, right? They would always be scantily clad. It would be almost Hefner-esque. The other thing they used to put them into was kind of like the robes, right? And the sailor hats. Bob Hope was never actually a sailor. Johnny Carson wasn't a sailor.
Ron Hubbard, at least, when he wore that outfit, he was sailing, man. These guys are on landlubbers wearing a robe and a...
Just very bizarre. And it was kind of
I gotta start wearing a robe and a sea captain hat now. I gotta start wearing... That's like the original MK Monarch handler. You wear a robe and a sea captain hat. And you got a pipe.
And at any moment you could grab a golf club or make something into a golf club and hit it off.
NBC has followed suit and issued an apology for misgendering the Minneapolis child killer. You should never misgender a child killer.
I never have in 30 plus years of being a judge. I've never once done that.
And I think that's important, but I think it's a lesson that people need to learn. So for tonight's
Susan Smith, pronoun she, her.
This is not to be made light of. I mean, really, misgendering a child killer is just impolite, as we just seen. What are some good forms of etiquette you can display if invited to a transsexual's dinner party who also happens to be a child killer?
If you're having a conversation with the host who's a transsexual that kills children, be a good listener. Good listener is a good guest.
Be sure to thank the transsexual who murders children before you leave for the enchanting evening.
Well, I'm just an old country judge, as you know, Dave, and most of the time people mischild the gender killer where I come from, but I really just call everybody dude.
I think that's fair, though.
A little bit of judge wisdom for you.
And I think that you're not othering someone; you're welcoming them.
Yeah, if it's if it's a chick, it's very respectful to elevate her to dude. If the chick is a dude, then I said dude.
Amen.
Like these are the people you spend your time criticizing.
None
That's
of them
true.
are empathetic.
It's performative.
They're meat-paths. They're meat-pathetic. They're really in
I like
touch
that.
with me.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to, whatever, like if I'm a moonkin elf blood and that's my gender now, my world of pretend, you have to do it with me. Like you're fucking my mom. You have to play my pretend games with me.
So crazy.
That's the level of me. So no, they don't empathize. Everybody has been trained to invert your empathy completely into your dumbest parts of your subconscious. So like deep down, I always thought I was a little girl and whatever. Now I really empathize with that door that's been opened by SSRIs and whatever other drugs I take. I have now empathized with this thing, and now it's going to overtake me like what are them things? A tulpa.
I know. I
worry. Make a tulpa out of yourself and worship it. It's really gross.
I know.
I mean, what you're saying sounds like entry points to demonic possessions. Like you take these drugs, you're already screwed up in the head,
you're the
and then the drugs are literally
medium.
like,
Get it?
huh?
You're like the medium for like the. That's why they make it all about light and blah blah blah. It's like you're some kind of prism, and if I can cut you certain ways, I can project. When they say like you got there's always stuff with kids because they got you got a connection to light of God or the cord. What is it called? The silver cord. You got that kind of thing?
Do you know there are organizations now, because of course there was no internet then, but now there's organizations of adults who are in the GATE program that share a lot of wild stories. A lot of them don't have memories, like too many, a suspicious amount. And some of them talk about having been made to drink a pink liquid, and then other people...
It's fluoride.
It might be just to dumb the GATE kids back down to normalcy.
It's
but no, I think they were doing some Stranger Things shit. They were looking for people with high IQ and maybe a certain sensibility so they can exploit.
By the way, Brooke was in it down here in Texas, College, Texas, briefly. And they had all the kids go in a darkened room in like an annex building or something with a big hot air balloon basket. And all the kids had to get in the hot air balloon basket. And then there's a big movie screen. And it played it like just film, and she's like, "It's like you were flying over Italy," and that's it. I'm like, "What? That's remote viewing shit." It took me a while to figure out what it was, but it's remote viewing. They're checking for people that got a little bit of that sense, better Wi-Fi reception, so to speak.
The GATE program is super suspicious.
They say archives by name. They say Monarch in the thing. I couldn't believe it. They were going to hear they admitted Monarch was real. It's not fake. It's a thing that was real. So now we know it was real. Why you talk about anything except that now? Because that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Literally the shit you think is normal that's been set up by some psychopath wealthy guy that they just need 1 or 2 generations for it to become reality. They just need 1 or 2 generations you forgetting about something, which they have. They have. People don't even have a clue how much of a repeating pattern every one of these events is, and they forget within like 2 months.
100 years.
Dude, not even 100 years. It's rapid. So the reason I thought Israel might have been involved in Charlie Kirk is because that Jewish couple got killed in D.C. The shooter killed them. They were young, around
The Democrats.
Around Charlie Kirk's age, and then he laid a Palestinian flag and waited for the cops. And then a whole round of we need to crack down on Twitter and blah, blah, blah. And then you don't even remember what I'm talking about, do you?
Wait, you're not talking about the Democratic...
that was in Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota.
No, I'm talking about...
Okay.
There's a lot of them. The idea of a mass shooter is not, it never came about organically. It's Read Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley. My Rabbi Richard Grove sent me the copy free. Okay? It's fucking expensive and this fucking thick. And I did not read it. He also sent me Tragedy and Hope 101. Which is the compiled parts that explain all the shit. And it's perfectly dry academic shit from a respected polymath who was on the side of the New World Order. Because this goes back to H.G. Wells. Go on YouTube, you can find for free the H.G. Wells Futurist movie.
Creepy stuff, man.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And it's so funny, dude. They were all in it. It's all British.
They're fanatical. We're making the mistake. You're trying to have a logical, intellectual discussion.
With who?
With these people, right?
Don't do that.
No, but the thing is, you can't. You literally can't.
You can't.
No,
but you would think if somebody's dead.
If I had a Christian fanatic,
right,
and I busted out a physics book, and I was like, due to the laws of density, it is physically impossible for a man to walk on water. They'd be like, well, this is faith. This is why it's faith, I believe. There's no way you could, there's no logical argument you can make. And it's the same thing with them. Everybody but me is a Nazi. I'm the only good person ever, you know?
Yeah. A symbolic what?
I thought it was more of a thing about controlling your emotions.
Well, it's an obedience test.
Walking on water.
Yeah.
The
obedience, yeah.
These are basic techniques. DARPA has been, openly they say this.
Well, the Bolsheviks.
Dude, way before that. If you watch these WEF conferences, which we always will have the clips of.
WEF?
It's WEF, World Economic Forum.
Well, okay, right. The billionaire conference.
Okay, so the DARPA bitch is talking about how they follow very closely the way people form groups online. This is from quite some time ago, okay? So I bet you've been watching them do this, assemble, like all the things people fear about a chip in your head. They don't need to use a chip.
No.
They could do, we're at MK retard, the mass rollout phase. Oh, times are crazy. Why? Why are they?
Yeah.
Because you're watching people get fucking programmed all, and it's not religious. I mean, it's religious in the zealotry and the fanaticism, but it's actually not religious. That's what they want. That's the ultimate goal. Okay? The ultimate goal of all societies is total control. That's a fact.
Power.
Gore Vidal says it in his great documentary, United States of Amnesia. And it's all about how everybody forgets the same thing that happens every goddamn time.
That's a great name.
This
United
motherfucker
States
just
of Amnesia.
went from Pee-wee's fucking Playhouse to
It's all
Gore Vidal
connected.
in 2 seconds.
You've never potted with Kirk?
It's absolutely connected.
This is the fucking greatest thing.
There's no amount of red string that can satisfy.
This is the single greatest fucking 3 minutes I've ever listened to a
You gotta think in
podcast
clips
ever,
now.
dude.
It's a young man's world. Roll the clips. Get it all in the clip.
Get it all, yeah.
What do you think his fucking algorithm looks like?
Oh, God.
It's
Can
fucking
you?
awesome.
It's just him over.
Can we just pull your phone up and scroll for 3 minutes?
Yeah,
and see what
let's
happens,
see
dude?
what's actually on your, what comes up on the curve.
No, I find all kinds of shit that I want to find on YouTube, even on suppressed ass YouTube.
Yeah.
I don't know why they say the algorithms are bad, because mine is. I find stuff I didn't know about comes to me. That
It works. The algorithm works.
Yeah, I just happen to have a lot of interests. Is that weird?
No, it's great.
Are you supposed to stay in your lane of the one thing?
This is tickling my ADHD better.
lot of people
than
do.
anything. You are.
Yeah, why does everybody have ADHD, but they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
No, everything you're talking about. Love it. You're a human
not
fidget
you,
spinner,
but
man. This is great.
I don't know who I'm talking about. I'll be honest with you. I don't know who I am.
No, you're talking to these damn fucking
Here's what came up.
communists. Yeah, what's
Gary
going on?
Wayne.
Okay.
Whatever they do to the people that you don't care about, whatever they're doing to them, they're gonna do it to you. A guy that would do it to somebody else will do it to you. So don't ever think that there's
Do you
some
think
loyalty.
it's a natural thing that, as a society, because, and I'm not saying it's good or bad, but the hope maybe is that people get along better, because
No, they
can't have these countries with people who are radically
hope from
different.
who? The leaders? Dude, the people they are leading.
But they're not erasing like the Muslim people who show up, or like
They'll get to them. Don't worry. They can knock
they're
anybody
just
down.
letting them do their thing for a bit. And
Okay,
then
chaos.
they get weird.
People go, oh, you can't control the thing. No, chaos is the control. People not get it? You got, it's in Pliny's treatise or something, the treatise on the Gauls. Maybe, is it Pliny or is it Marcus Aurelius? It's a Roman emperor talking about how he divided the barbarian tribes against each other, which is what they did here. Does that sound odd to anybody? 1 in 31? That seems quite
I
high.
don't trust any. Like I'm at the point where I brush my teeth with the non you know, like the Burt's Bees, whatever, like all the Colgate, all that shit's like.
Oh, whatever is going to happen to me. But they've already mutated people in ways that you'll never know about. But I notice it because we watch Love on the Spectrum for like 5 seconds. It's like a class of people that they're smart with stuff, good with tech, right? And but they're like childlike in a way, and they love crappy, stupid products well into their 40s. Mm-hmm. They're like Disney adults. Mm-hmm. You know, they'll never stop thinking about Pikachu, that kind of shit. They're weird about sex, so that helps cut down on the problems in the office with any kind of sexual relationship because they're funny about it.
It's like the perfect employee.
Yeah, you can tell them to be whatever gender you want them to be when it's convenient.
Just not sales.
So, I mean, what a stroke of
sales
luck.
guys still need to be like. Sales departments are probably the last bastion of people who probably know about you or me or listen, you know what I mean? Or
well, eventually they're going to get rid of that because they don't want competition. The higher you go up the chain, the less freedom you have to speak openly about Israel. The more power you have, the less you can say anything remotely, never criticizing Israel. Don't even refuse to do Netanyahu's dry cleaning when he brings it to the White House and saves it up the whole year with his wife. And every time they visit, they bring all their dry cleaning for the year so that the White House staff could do it. Now, why do you suppose he does something like that? It was a wacky story I saw Ryan Grimm talking about, I think.
That is
why would he do something? Is it just quirky? Why would he do that?
Might be a little power play, right?
A little power play? Here's why he does it. Because he has blackmail and all our vile piece of shit leaders. I lost my daily.
No. That's the third time you've said that word. We're just keeping them in.
I don't even know what's considered a curse now.
If you could say it on late night and most things, I don't know that it is anymore either. Right? Even the president of the United States.
You can after NYPD Blue
in the 90s.
You could show Dennis Franz's ass.
Yes, I remember that first ass shot of Franz. You thought that you would only get it like that one time, and then they made it like a rolling thing every season. They tried to dip it a little bit more, like you'd get it 2 or 3 times.
Well, it was weird because, like, it would be weird if then they never cursed or showed nudity again after the first episode. It was like, and then it became a perfectly clean show. Just one hit of David Caruso's ginger ass, like a Mike Tyson shot of his butt cheeks.
Yeah, they sold that pretty heavily on the side boob angle as well. We're going to take a quick break. It's a fun show. We're talking about the overthrow of Syria.
And I was like, yeah, and I think I didn't want to give it to him also. Because I was like, what? So I didn't know that he fucking was pushing back at all. Like, it's actually I would say his politics were tepid. They're not extremist unless you're a retard Zoomer millennial who think that's extremism. They were tepid. Mm-hmm. But for him to go back on Netanyahu and them at all, he's got 2 billionaire donors, they said. Did you read the article? Max Blumenthal's.
Yeah.
Anya Pramprow. I don't know how to say Anya's last name. That's as good as done to me when they're writing about it because they won't touch shit unless it really looks like that. And it does look like it.
Yeah.
So now
he said it to Ben Shapiro's face.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's a clip
He
of him
sat
talking.
there
So
with
that
Ben
means
Shapiro
that poor
said-
guy was a true believer who went through the pain of, hey, this does look good. What's the... And they were like, shut up.
Well, what he did...
And he's like, is this wrong? Like... So that means he's a real guy. Yeah, that makes it like extra. Yeah.
What he did that was impressive was he self-evaluated and he said, I'm not holding Israel to the same scrutiny I hold other entities and other governments. On my show, I hold our government to task. I hold our politicians to task. And although I feel a deep connection to Israel, I've not been holding them and their politicians to the same scrutiny. And then that's something that, isn't it fair that we should? And you can see Ben Shapiro's face as he said it, like, oh, shit, dude.
Yeah.
Damn, Charlie, you just killed yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Charlie.
You can see the...
Oh, no,
he went like this. He went...
Oh, no, I just say some good news about this. Ben Shapiro said, don't worry, he's going to be picking up the bloody mic and going to the colleges himself now.
Oh,
so
great.
Ben Shapiro will be stepping in.
Peace be with you. Friends, for this 25th Sunday of Ordinary Time, I want to focus not on the gospel. I preached on it many times before, the great parable of the The Unjust Steward, which is very rich. But I want to focus on readings 2 and 1 because when read together, I think, they give us a very good sense of Catholic social teaching in regard to the question of power, of political power. The church's position is a subtle one, and I think much of the conversation today kind of breaks on either side of it. And the church typically gives this sort of both-and answer. I think you see the roots of it in these two texts the church gives us. Let me first observe this, and I've said this many times before. I think the most influential 19th century philosopher on the scene today is Friedrich Nietzsche. More than Karl Marx. Nietzsche, who said everything comes down to plays of power. I'm oversimplifying, of course, but that the fundamental reality is power and the abuse of power, the use of power. Who has power? Who's benefiting from it? Who's a victim of it? The tendency, especially today, to divide the world into two camps. There's oppressors who have power and the oppressed who don't have it, and their ongoing struggle. Well, that's a very Nietzschean perspective, bequeathed to modern times by figures such as, Martin Heidegger, Michel Foucault, Ayn Rand, many others. And I think it's come to dominate the mentality of many, so that there's a tendency to demonize power. When you say, well, look, that group has got power. Yeah, because they want to oppress others. That guy's got power, and that's not right. And these people are powerless, and that's a problem. So power tends to be seen as something almost entirely negative. Well, let me say this bluntly. The Bible is not in sympathy with this sort of one-sided Nietzschean, Foucaultian demonization of power. The Bible does not see the world as divided simply into two camps of oppressors with power and oppressed who don't have power. And one of the great texts, I think, is the one that's proposed now for our second reading. It's from Paul's first letter to Timothy. Here's what we hear. Beloved, first of all, I ask that supplications, prayers, petitions, and thanksgivings be offered for everyone, for kings, and for all in authority, that we may lead a quiet and tranquil life in all devotion and dignity. Well, if Paul thought kings were just corrupt, kings were just the wielders of oppressive power, why would you pray for them? You want to overthrow them. You'd want to resist them. No, he's saying supplications, prayers, petitions for kings and all those in authority. Why? That we may lead a quiet and tranquil life. What's the purpose of political power? Well, see, don't demonize it, because indeed, God is described as all-powerful. So power can't in itself be a problem. If God has power, well, those who are participating in God, who are imitating God in their use of power, are doing something that's really good. And namely, we hear it, that we may lead a quiet and tranquil life in all devotion and dignity. Not a bad little description of the purpose of government there. There's a kind of basic purpose of, kind of keeping things quiet and peaceful, that we might lead our lives productively, economically and in terms of our friendships and relationships. If we're living in chaos, well, then we can't flourish as human beings. And so we need people in power that can provide for this tranquility. I like, too, the focus on in all devotion and dignity. One of the cornerstones of Catholic social teaching is the dignity of the individual. What's the government's purpose? Now, I'm going to give it a somewhat American, more modern spin here, but part of the purpose of government is to guarantee the dignity of citizens. We speak of human rights, and government's instituted to protect those rights, not creating them, but securing and protecting them. All right, tranquility, peace, dignity. But then listen now as St. Paul goes on, adding another dimension. This is good and pleasing to God our Savior, praying for those in authority. Now why? Who wills everyone to be saved and to come to knowledge of the truth. Well, now he puts it in a very explicitly theological framework. What's at least one of the purposes of political authority is to allow for salvation, meaning, it seems to me, providing the context and conditions for a flourishing religiosity. We'll speak of religious liberty quite correctly. The free exercise of religion, we say in our American context. Well, quite right. That's one of the purposes of government, is to allow for religion to flourish and so everyone to be saved and to come to knowledge of the truth. That knowledge might be shared, that there might be the conditions that make real learning possible. Think here of Thomas Jefferson, who would say one of the purposes of government is to provide for education. See, beautiful. Don't demonize power as though it's just a bad thing, it's just oppressive. No. Pray for those in authority for all these reasons, that we might have the basic tranquility we need to flourish, that we might even be free to worship God properly, that we might have our dignity and rights preserved. Those are all beautiful and important things, which is why in its social teaching, the church insists that a properly constituted government is participating in the authority of God. Now, again, it's not to say, oh, they're flawless and we should never ask questions about them. No. I'll get there. We'll get there in this very sermon. But it does mean that legitimate political authority participates in the authority by which God governs the universe.
Come on, man, keep up.
And so indeed, look, in the Catholic liturgy, we are positively encouraged, indeed required, to pray for those in authority. You know, when we're putting the petitions together for Mass, the Church recommends the first one be for the Pope and for the bishops, those who lead us in the spiritual order. But then the second prayer, and I always follow this when I'm saying, daily Mass, the second prayer should be for those in authority, those in political. Pray for the president, for senators and representatives and our governors, etc. Good. Power should not be demonized. We should recognize the practical, moral, and indeed spiritual purpose of real power. Okay, there's part one of Catholic social teaching, reflected clearly now in Paul to Timothy. But now, let's look at the other side. And for that, I turn the page back to reading 1, which is from the fiery prophet Amos. Amos is one of the greatest of the minor prophets. Just means that his book is shorter than those of the major prophets. But Amos was often cited by the leaders of our civil rights movement in the mid-20th century, because Amos is one of the great voices for social justice, voice on behalf of the poor. Listen now, a voice raised in opposition to the abuse of authority. Now, having said all these positive things about political authority and not wishing to gainsay any of it, I also want to echo the prophet Amos. Now, listen as he speaks. Hear this, you who trample upon the needy and destroy the poor of the land. When will the new moon be over, you ask? That we may sell our grain and the Sabbath, that we may display the wheat. Okay, the first part of that is clear enough. You in authority who trample upon the needy. In other words, you're not securing their dignity. You're not securing tranquility for them. You're using your power to trample upon them and to destroy the poor of the land, not to lift them up. Let's say through a properly managed economy that gives people the opportunity to move out of their poverty. You're not lifting them up. You're trampling down the poor. Now, are there political authorities that do this? Yes. Up and down the ages, we can see them. We can see them around us today. And the church raises a prophetic voice against them. Now, the second part is a little more puzzling to us, but it's making an important point. When will the new moon be over, you ask, that we may sell our grain, and the Sabbath, that we may display the wheat? What they're saying there is during times of these formal religious ceremonies and these certain times of the year, they were not allowed to do business. can't wait for this religion thing to be over so I can get back to my work of exploitation. That's what he's saying. Notice in 1 Timothy, one of the purposes of a well-organized government is to provide for the flourishing of religion. But now, here's people in power who are saying, religion is just getting in the way of my exploitation. Can't wait for these services to be over. That's a profound perversion of the purpose of government, of power. Listen to this now. He imagines these sort of wealthy, powerful figures saying, we will diminish the ephah, add to the shekel, and fix our scales for cheating. Well, what's that? But economic exploitation. So we're talking about weighing things and measuring things and, what's this cost? And instead of doing it fairly, I'm going to fix the system. I'm going to game the system to get what I want. Now, in ancient times, it was all kind of crude, just a matter of, how you're measuring things. Is it being done today?
Me round here.
Yeah, just in a much more sophisticated manner and probably a somewhat more hidden manner. Are there people today, economically, who are gaming the system for their own advantage? Indifferent to the poor? In fact, using the poor to get ahead themselves? Yeah, sure. What's the purpose, everybody, of economic power? Not just to aggrandize my own, position, but to use my economic power to lift others up. See, there's Catholic social teaching. Catholic social teaching affirms the market economy. It doesn't like socialism or socialist forms. It likes the market economy for all kinds of reasons. But it wants more and more people involved in the market economy so they can participate in it in a way that lifts them up. It likes investment that's not just for the advantage of the investor, but investment that lifts others up and provides more opportunities and jobs and so on. How do we think about our economic lives? How do we think about the power that some of us wield economically? Just make me richer. No. The focus should be, and indeed, don't the popes tell us this in the Catholic social teaching? Once the demands of necessity and propriety have been met in your own life, everything else you own belongs to the poor. That's Leo XIII, founder of the modern Catholic social teaching tradition. That's a hard saying. That's a hard saying, everybody.
Take me away from
How are we using our economic power?
We should go do a drive-by.
As well as our political
Denise, you ain't like most good.
See, Catholic social teaching doesn't demonize power, doesn't demonize economic power or economic opportunity. But it wants to make sure that both political power and economic power are animated, finally, by love. So that my power is used
Take me home, Romeo.
for the good of the other.
You better not be in this part-time.
Now, I'll close with this. In God, what come together? Precisely power and love. Is God all-powerful? Yes, over all things. Nothing limits God's capacity.
What's your problem?
But his power is identical to his love. Now we found it. Now we found the key to Catholic social teaching. May the power you legitimately exercise always be animated by love.
Maybe you need to take me to Liberty.
And God bless you.
How about a little coffee?
All right, so we have a new sponsor on the show. We don't usually start off with an ad, but I'm kind of very excited about this. We got the sponsorship late last night. I am a big fan of the natural world. Ben knows this. I love the nature. I love to swim. I love pools, but even more importantly, I love lakes and I love oceans. These are things that I am invested in. And I mean, I've never been a hysteric about global warming on either side. Climate change is probably real, and maybe we could do something positive about it. I don't know. But I love swimming. I grew up around the ocean, and I grew up swimming as a kid with my mother. These are the things I'll always remember about my childhood. The smell of salt water and the sand under your feet running around. I mean, this is... So when we destroy the oceans, we're destroying not only our habitat, but we're destroying all these great experiences. So we're very happy to kind of, we're this new project that we're backing right now, and we're trying to involve a lot of our people in it as well. And just a few minutes of it to just kind of tell you what it's about.
The weather is very, very important to us. It actually affects every single aspect of our lives.
She's right.
Before I came to Iceland, I checked the weather. I'm super happy that I did. My umbrella was handy last night. I'm sure it was for many of you. Farmers it's essential for farming, when to plant the crops, when to take and when to harvest the crops. So I'm delighted today, for the first time, to be able to have the Weather Channel have a look at what's happening for the first time in history, actually, in the high seas.
Thank you so much, Gillian. And we've got wonderful new technology here at the Weather Channel, and we are able to deliver a point forecast for the Arctic high seas. And we'll take one location that is north of the northernmost part of Canada, near the Mean Islands. And as you might expect, it's going to be very chilly indeed here. Temperatures will, for the most part, only get up into the negative 20s Celsius through the entire week. So you want to take an extra pair of knickers should you be here anytime soon. And we'll take you to another spot on the other side of the Arctic Ocean, and that is north of Russia, northeast of the Anzu Islands, and similarly, it's going to be quite cold, temperatures in the negative numbers all across the board right through the end of the week, getting a little bit warmer going into Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Now back to you in Iceland.
Thank you.
Oh, that's clever, because what she did, I don't know who this woman is, but what she's doing is she's trying to get people into supporting the oceans, but she's using things they know, like the Weather Channel. I like this a lot. I don't know who she is, but she's got a bright future.
Today, because that is a first for the Arctic, it is a first for the high seas, and it's a first for the Weather Channel. So what's this focus on the weather? It's really exciting, of course, that now for the first time in history, we have the weather for the high seas in the Arctic. That's about 1% of the high seas in total. But what that really means is that almost half the planet we have no weather for. Think about that for a second.
Fucking crazy.
Almost half the planet that we don't have full data for the weather.
Jesus,
and as we know with our friends from Google and our friends from the fisheries, data is key, especially in today's world.
Isn't it? Isn't data key?
So as exciting that is, I just want to talk a little bit about exploration. So we spend
I like going away
space
places.
Exploration budget is about 250 times more than that
I like
of our
what she
ocean
does here, because she's
budget.
bringing it
That
into
might
space.
explain some of the reasons for the holes in our ocean exploration. To put this into perspective, on the right-hand side, that's a picture of James Cameron going down to the bottom of the ocean at about 36,000 feet.
Yeah,
of which only 3 people in the history of our planet have ever gone down to the bottom of the ocean. By contrast, the very good-looking chap on the left is our space moonwalker, and we've had 12 people who have walked on the moon.
She makes it fun, which I like, because you want to. The environment should be fun. The ocean and space.
Because we've only
she seems
just
unfocused here a little bit, but her style is to just be in and out. You don't really know what's going on, but I think it's good.
But just to put that into perspective for you,
it's winning me over.
We map the moon to about between 7 meters and 100 meters, which is crazy when you think of that.
Nuts.
And also what's odd is that since in the last 40 years since we've been to the moon, we've brought back about 850 pounds of moon rocks. Again, by contrast, we take out between 100 and about 130 billion worth of fish, tons of fish, a year. Now, the variable, as many of you will know, is because we don't really know what the value is on the illegal fishing department, because boats, as we know, not all boats are tracked. There are about
illegal
15%
stop it for
only
saying.
of boats.
People have no idea how much of a problem illegal fishing is. It's one of the biggest problems in the country, in the world, is illegal fishing. People fishing when they shouldn't, without a permit and stuff. So much of it goes on. And it's, I don't know who this woman is, but the fact that she has the guts and the balls to kind of call out the illegal fishermen, to me, is huge. Let's let her go for another few minutes.
boats that are tracked, for instance, in the high seas.
Yeah.
And just, I would like you to think about this for a second.
Okay.
I'd like to know how many of you would like to fly on a plane if only 15% of planes were talking to air traffic control.
I don't want it. I don't want to.
Or again, perhaps, who'd like to go
Is it a
driving,
private-
especially in
is it a
Manhattan,
private
where
plane?
I'm from, it seems a little bit more comfortable here in Iceland. If only 15% of the drivers had license plates.
No good.
We all know, I mean, I'm a bit of a speed demon, so I'd be whipping
boy.
through those red lights as long as I knew that no one was tracking me. But what that means
She makes
on
a
the
good
high
point.
seas
No one
is that we don't
tracking you.
really
Go
know
through the red
what
lights.
all those fishing vessels are doing.
Get on
At
the
any
plane.
given time,
Yeah.
there are literally hundreds of boats out
fucking
there
fishermen
that
are
are fishing,
pieces
and
of
that
shit.
allows them to
They're
blow through the
pieces of
quotas.
shit.
It allows them to fish for endangered species because
Use a drone and kill
the
them.
chances that they'll be captured
Capture
are
them then.
frankly less. And so that's a problem because it's putting
All right. Well,
a lot of
anyway,
pressure on the fishing
this is the Terramar project is what we've just entered into a partnership with on this show. It's called the Terramar Project. I don't know what that means. I think water and land or something, and both are very necessary. And this woman is fucking bright, and I don't know who she is, but I like the cut of her jib, and I just enjoy it. And so if you, like me, think illegal fishing is the biggest problem in America and the world, you will get involved with this Terramar project to really kind of fucking go and get those illegal boats, because we need to know who's fishing. That's the biggest issue. That's the biggest issue on the high seas right now, on the water. Who is fishing where they shouldn't be fishing? So if there's any way that we can find those people, I think so many other problems are linked into this illegal fishing. It almost seems like illegal fishing is the way that the world is run. You see, there's all these fishermen fishing illegally for fish that they shouldn't have, that they should have thrown back into the water. And one fisherman knows that the other fisherman's doing this with the illegal fish. He doesn't know. And so there's this weird omerta-like silence around the idea of illegal fishing. None of the illegal fishermen tell on any of the other illegal fishermen, and nobody has a fucking license. Everybody just says, we're just going out for a fun, yacht day, but it's not. They're illegally fishing, taking fish they shouldn't have and doing God only knows what to it on a boat, and they all have each other's back, and it's a code of silence, and they bribe each other and they blackmail each other with these illegal fish. And this woman has the balls to call it out. I don't know how he pronounced her name, just something, but God bless her, and God bless the Terramar Project. Whitney Webb coming right up. All right, returning favorite, Whitney Webb, back on the show. She is a writer. Her articles appear at The Last American Vagabond, amongst other publications. She has a Patreon that you should support. We're going to put the link in the description of this episode. And I believe she is in the process of writing a book on the topic that we are going to discuss today. So Whitney Webb, thank you for coming back. You're a fan favorite here. You were tweeting that you don't buy the Ghislaine arrest, or you think it's a little convenient or a little sus, which means suspect, as people on the internet say. What about it strikes you as fishy?
All right, where to start? First of all, just before Ghislaine was arrested, Virginia Roberts' attorneys were ordered by a U.S. federal judge to destroy evidence that pertained directly to Ghislaine Maxwell, claiming that they had obtained that evidence illegally and thus it has to be destroyed. And then they arrest her like the next day, right?
What evidence?
It was evidence, well, it hasn't been made public, right? But they claim that it had been sealed. Evidence apparently acquired through some sort of FBI stuff that was never made public and never turned into an indictment, right? And Alan Dershowitz was actually suing to try and get access to that information and was also denied access to it, right? So even people that are, representing the victims and people that were associates of Epstein have been denied access to this. But the lawyers who obtained it were trying to use it in court, and they said, no, you can't have this, and you have to destroy it. And then Ghislaine is, arrested a day later in New Hampshire. But, that's just like one thing that preceded this. There's a couple other things that are interesting that preceded this too. But just to start off, I think it's good to start with just talking about the indictment itself, which I really recommend people that are interested in this case actually take the time to read the indictment against Ghislaine Maxwell. It's only like 18 pages, so it's not very long. And that, for me, is the main basis of why I am very suspect of what is going on here. What they charge her with, I think it's 4 counts. One of them is perjury. The other 3 only relate to enticing minors to travel across state lines for the purpose of engaging in illegal sex acts with Jeffrey Epstein. But the indictment itself says that Ghislaine Maxwell was also involved in those sex acts. It was basically saying that she sexually assaulted these minors also, but she's not charged for that. She's charged with enticing 3 girls between 1994 and 1997 to travel across state lines to engage in sex acts with Jeffrey Epstein, in which she was also involved. And the indictment even says things like it was Ghislaine that ordered these girls to take off their clothes and to touch Epstein, and that she would also become involved in a threesome or something. But she's not charged with anything related to that, right? Which is just like, why would you admit that and then be like, well, it's fine that you're a pedophile, but you made them travel for it.
Right. Right. So why are they not charging her with the actual molestation?
That's an interesting, I think that's a very valid point and a question that should be asked of the people, the FBI and the Southern District of New York and, the people responsible for this indictment. Also, as far as her arrest, where is her mugshot? Right? Why hasn't she appeared in federal court yet? She was supposed to be arraigned yesterday. There's been no news on that about her having appeared in court. Right, that's not normal. Jeffrey Epstein had a mugshot.
Right. Now, if she was charged with actually molesting the girls, would that carry a longer sentence?
Oh, for sure. And it would also mean that she could be denied bail. Based on the types of charges she's facing now, it's very likely she'll be allowed to post bail and won't go to prison unless she is sentenced at the conclusion of the trial. Right. So who knows what could happen by then, whenever that happens. It could be a protracted legal process. They've also set up the narrative that Ghislaine's going to cooperate with authorities, which, when that happens, results in a reduced sentence. So I think it's very likely, based on the charges she's facing, which are extremely light when you consider the gravity of her crimes, how many children she raped, how many children she recruited for Epstein, among numerous other things she was involved in. I mean, because this wasn't just 3 girls, like she's been charged with enticing to travel now. I mean, this network in which Ghislaine was, basically one of the key people, if not the key person, abused thousands of girls.
Right.
Right.
Right. Now, she's arrested. She's taken to where? Where is she? Is she going to go to the same facility that Jeff was in? Like, where?
We don't know.
We don't know.
She hasn't appeared in federal court, at the time of us recording this, right?
Right.
She hasn't been made to appear. There's no mugshot of her. No one really knows. It was just reported that she was arrested, and then they had this press conference. But they didn't show a mugshot or anything. They just showed a picture of, Ghislaine and Jeffrey Epstein together from 2005, and they just talked about how great they are for having arrested her, even though they apparently have known where she is for a year, because the house she was arrested in New Hampshire, she bought 7 months ago.
Right. Now, wasn't there an article that came out a while back that said she was staying in either Massachusetts or New Hampshire? I forget. What was that article? And it said that she was staying with a guy, right? Somebody who owned,
His name is Scott Borgeson. He's alleged to be her current boyfriend. He runs a company that's a data analytics company for ocean freight, which is interesting when you consider Ghislaine's recent interest in this whole Terramar project of creating sort of these independent statelets, I guess you could say, in the ocean where international law wouldn't apply.
Right. But I mean, in her defense, there's a lot of good people involved in that too, like Bill Gates and the Clintons.
Right. But anyway, so this guy, right, his company, the main investor in it is Eric Schmidt, the former Google head of Google, right, who's also tied up with the Clintons and all of these fun guys.
Yeah.
Right? So that's who she was said to have been staying with. And what's interesting is after that report came out, right after that is when the fake In-N-Out Burger picture photo op or whatever in LA came out, basically making people think that she was actually on the West Coast, which I guess now in retrospect was a way to divert attention from what was actually happening.
What was the point of doing that In-N-Out photo shoot? I never understood that. They photoshopped a movie, advertisement in the background. Like, it was one of the weirdest pieces of political theater, if you want to say it's political.
Right.
It was this stunt. What, in your estimation, was the point of that?
Well, I think there's a couple of, first of all, it was orchestrated by her attorney. And also, let's remember the book she was reading, The Life and Death of CIA Operatives or something like that. And considering the whole intelligence ties of this. And also Ghislaine's face in the picture. I mean, she looks ridiculously smug. And she's just sitting there in public. I mean, I think it was honestly sort of a way, like, to slap everyone in the face and be like, you can't fuck with me type of deal. I think it was something like that. And, it really started this whole trend of media reporting too on Ghislaine that treated her like she was Carmen Sandiego. Oh, she's, in LA. Now she's in France. Now she's in England. Now she's in Israel.
Right.
About all this stuff. Where is she, right? Making no one, acting like, implying that she was just traveling all the time. So maybe that's why they couldn't find her, right? When in fact, she's been in the U.S. the whole time and they've known it and haven't done shit, right?
Why do you think if they waited to arrest her, what do you think that was about? Do you think they were waiting for the conditions to be, because Barr, the Attorney General, this is not a person who's interested in getting to the bottom of this case.
Right.
Right. I mean, Attorney General Bill Barr, his father was the headmaster of Dalton who hired Jeffrey Epstein. So
Correct. He was also in intelligence. Bill Barr was at the Office of Strategic Services, the precursor to the CIA, and at the time he hired Epstein, his son Bill Barr was working at the CIA. Remember, that's where Bill Barr's career started. He worked for the CIA.
Right. So we have to believe that this Attorney General, who's been intelligence his entire life, whose father is intelligence, whose father hired Epstein, wants to get to the bottom of this story.
Right.
Right.
Well, I mean, you can also look at Bill Barr's past, right? He helped cover up Iran-Contra, pardon all the Iran-Contra criminals when he was Attorney General the first time under George Bush Sr., also a CIA director.
Right.
And helped cover up the Promise software scandal in which the Maxwell family was very intimately involved. Right. So he's not exactly a person who finds things out. He's more of a guy who covers things up. If you look at his track record, he also worked at the law firm that was offered that were the defense lawyers for Jeffrey Epstein when he was arrested the first time.
So Bill Barr was working at the law firm of Jeffrey Epstein's defense attorneys the first time Epstein was arrested.
That's correct.
Interesting. In what capacity? Just as an attorney or a consultant or?
I believe he was an attorney. The law firm is Kirkland and Ellis, I believe.
Yeah.
But that's where his defense lawyers were also part of that firm. But I mean, it's not like Barr was part of Epstein's legal team, but he was, in the same law firm as them.
Is there any truth to what's being circulated on Twitter that Bill Barr wanted to meet Ghislaine Maxwell, and her attorney denied that? Or is that just floating around on Twitter that's kind of unsubstantiated?
I haven't heard that, so I can't really speak to that. But what's interesting, though, is that about less than 2 weeks ago, Bill Barr made this big, there was this controversy in this very district we're talking about, right, the Southern District of New York, where Jeffrey Berman, who was the district attorney when Epstein was indicted last year, was basically forced out. And so the person that is currently the district attorney isn't official, they're an acting district attorney. And Berman was just removed from that capacity essentially by Bill Barr around 10 or 11 days ago. And then, this other judge, also part of the DOJ technically, right, orders this evidence be destroyed, and then Ghislaine is arrested.
Why was Berman forced out? Is there an official story for that?
I actually don't really remember the official story because I remember reading it and being like, this is probably bullshit, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's worth pointing out that I don't think Jeffrey Berman is a clean guy, right? He used to work for Giuliani, who's a really shady guy too. And a lot of this stuff, there's just different factions, different, I guess you could say, competing crime families or whatever, And so Some of them are dirty. Well, they're all really dirty, but they have like, competing interests. But I think it's interesting, the timing, and I guess we can speculate as to why it really was, right? Considering what's happened in the days since.
Now,
I think it's possible, for example, that Bill Barr may not have wanted Ghislaine to be arrested at all, for example, because he, as you pointed out, right, has some sort of family tie to this case, right?
Yeah.
So, it's possible that they didn't want this to move forward at all, even though, in my opinion, the charges are a complete freaking joke and are just going to mean that she, gets off light or, probably doesn't go to prison at all if she cooperates or they settle or who knows what.
What would be the fact? Yeah.
Sorry.
No. What's the version of cooperating? Like, what would she do?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen, right? But basically, even if she does give them information they want on certain people or, things like that, I mean, that's not going to be made public, right?
So it's very possible that she enters into some agreement where she cooperates and supposedly gives them information, but none of that is ever made public.
Right.
They have to decide what to do with that.
It depends on the nature of the trial, but it's very unlikely that it would be made public, and they could say it's for a separate investigation that's classified, and who knows, right?
Right. Ridge Wallet. Yum. How many times do we have to tell you fucking people about Ridge Wallet? Okay? This is the wallet of the future, the easiest wallet to sanitize, the easiest wallet to hide. Okay? People won't even know you have it on you. It's a minimal, small, sleek, front-facing, front pocket wallet. Roll, man. Okay? 30,000 5-star reviews. Better way to carry your cash and cards. Easy to sanitize. Rub some hand sanitizer on your hands, throw the Ridge Wallet in there, and you're safe, baby. It's easy. It comes in titanium, carbon fiber, aluminum, and over a dozen different styles and colors. Okay? Get 10% off today. Free worldwide shipping and returns. Ridge.com/TIM. That's Ridge.com/TIM. Link in description. I use it. Ben uses it. We love this wallet. It is a fantastic wallet, especially for the times that we are living in where there is so much uncertainty. So much uncertainty. Chaos, to be exact. And the Ridge Wallet provides a sense of calm and stability, even as you are being beaten by protesters or police, whichever side of the line, the divide you find yourself on. As they are beating you mercilessly, because you are the avatar of a system that is oppressive and unfair, you will still find comfort in the fact that your Ridge Wallet knows how to take the beating, because it is a tough titanium wallet, okay? And you're going to be able to, after the beating, you're going to be able to call a cab, Uber, whatever. You're going to be able to pay for it because they probably will not have gotten your Ridge Wallet. Your Ridge Wallet can easily fit in your rectum. It can easily fit under an armpit. It can fit in a fold of fat. You can even, sew your Ridge Wallet into your skin, which is, I'm sure that before Bill Gates does it, why don't you do it first? The Ridge Wallet can be hidden. You can put it in your shoe, between your toes. It is easy. You could if you tuck your penis back to appear to be a female, you can tuck the Ridge Wallet under your penile organ as well. This is something that a lot of people don't know about the Ridge Wallet, but it is not flexible because it's metal, but it is so sleek. It's just so easy to hide. It's so important right now. You don't want to advertise that you got cash. You don't want a wallet bulge. If you want a bulge, you know where you want it. But you don't want it in your wallet because people say, hey, that guy has money. I want that guy's money. Let's kill that person. Because that's where we're headed to. People are going to just see you and go, that guy might have money. Let's kill him. Let's take his money and let's get Little Caesars or something. I don't know what these people do. But I'm just telling you, that's where we're at now because no one has any money and they're going to look at you. And if you appear to even have money, it's a problem. So really the Ridge Wallet is a great way to disguise the fact that you even have a wallet on you in the first place. This is not the time to be, brash. It's not time to be making it rain with the cash out there, okay? Because people are going to light your body on fire and use it to warm their hands. So that's why it's so important to have a diminutive wallet that it barely exists. You barely know it's there. It's just a couple of credit cards, a little bit of cash, nothing really. It's simple. It's very, very easy. You stay organized. You know where everything is. And the most important right now, it's easily hidden. I mean, this is really the selling point of this. It is easily hidden from the people that will take it from you, which will be your own family soon, because we're seeing, this affect different people in different ways, and your own family and community will rise up against you eventually and try to take what is yours, and whether you earned it or not, it's yours at the moment, but they're coming for it and they're going to strip it from you. They're going to take you. I mean, you'll need a skin graft to put back what these people will take from you. I mean, this is the truth. I mean, truly, that's why you should arm yourself to the teeth. I mean, I mean bazookas, like military grade weaponry, maybe get a kind of a disaster car that you could just kind of, fix, put a kind of a rocket launcher on top, just so that you can kind of ride around town in style and also intimidate people that are trying to kill you at any given moment. So ridgewallet.com/Tim, T-I-M. If you use the code TIM, link in description, you get 10% off. They'll ship it anywhere in the world. They don't care. You're in Syria, they'll give it to you. It's a goddamn Ridge wallet. You need it. It's the way to stay safe. It's just a way to stay safe. Somebody asks you, they go, hey, do you have your wallet on you? You go, no, I don't carry one. I don't carry a wallet. It's easy. Because even your best friend, sooner or later, because how bad things are getting, they'll go, hey, do you have your wallet on you? If you go, yeah, they'll turn around and they'll stab you in the throat and just take it from you. Could be your own father. Hey, you have a wallet on you? Yeah, Dad, I do. Good, hold on. Stun gun comes out. He stuns you. You're laying on the floor of the house you grew up in, and your father and your mother walk out with your wallet. Those boomers don't give a fuck. Ridge.com/Tim, T-I-M, promo code Tim, link in description. Be safe, be smart, be Ridge. Anvil Rings makes awesome homemade jewelry in Western Colorado. There's a man there who's in the middle of a canyon in Colorado, and he's making rings out of the following unique materials: meteorite, whiskey barrel, ironwood, natural shed elk and deer antler, titanium and tungsten carbide, Damascus steel, black and acid washed, and many more. The rings are dreamt up, made and assembled in the USA. There's over 500 five-star reviews, and every single purchase includes a free Anvil Rings silicone activity band and an Anvil Rings faux leather ring box, which is very nice. This is a great way to get a ring for somebody that you care about, to commemorate something. You may not have the money to, buy something that is more expensive. You don't want to spend thousands, you want to spend hundreds, but you want to get something truly unique, truly cool. This is handmade artisan jewelry being made by a man in Western Colorado on the FBI watch list. And it's so important that he's able to kind of make these things for you, because God only knows what he'd be doing. This is his passion, is making rings. He could be in a militia, but he doesn't. He makes rings. That's what's so important. He's channeling all of his energy into something nice, like making a nice whiskey barrel ring for you, okay? That's so important. He's not a violent separatist amassing weaponry and getting ready for the coming civil war. He's making nice jewelry for you to give your lover after you've had a lovely outside socially distanced date at Chili's. That's what it comes down to, okay? They offer free sizers discounted after a ring purchase during this time to stay safe. Get sized at home. So you don't need to guesstimate the size of your finger. They will let you know. So whether you want a wedding band, an anniversary band, or you just want a ring that looks awesome, head over to anvilrings.com and use promo code Tim. This guy is great. I don't know who he is, but he's a fan of the show. I picture he's got like a beard, and he lives in like some type of shack, but he's got a really nice studio where he makes the rings, because that's his most important thing. You're helping a man live by ordering one of these rings. And most of the time he just, I would imagine he eats canned food and sits on a cot. But then when a ring order comes in, his eyes light up and he goes out and he drinks moonshine, and then by the moonlight, he smites a ring. Is that what you do? You smite it?
I think so, yeah.
He smites a beautiful ring, and then he sends it off to someone in St. Louis so they can give it to someone else. That's what's really important. And he just waits for these ring orders to come in. He waits and waits and waits and just sit on the edge of that bed, and he's got a raggedy old blanket, and it's all burned from, God only knows. He's lit himself on fire several times. He doesn't mean to, but this is probably what happens. He has flashbacks of Vietnam, even though he never served. But it's so important that you guys give this man work. No, I mean, truly. I mean, this is a child of God out there in Colorado, in western Colorado, in a canyon, living in some type of shanty, and he wants to work for you. He wants to make nice rings for you, you know? He probably doesn't own any clothing. He just walks around. If you bumped into him in the woods, you would run away screaming. And I'm sure many hipsters do. These little pieces of shit that go out for a day hike or whatever, and then you bump into him, a real American, a true person, you know? A man who's, you know, doesn't have any fingerprints because he burned them off, and you know, a guy that really just, you know, he's not on the grid. He's out there, and you know, the hipster kids bump into him and they start screaming and run away. But all he wants to do is make them rings to take back to their speakeasies. He just wants to make them rings to take back to their little bars in Williamsburg, and because they're cool looking and they think rings just happen. They don't happen. An old warlock of a man makes them in Colorado, and that's why we're so happy to partner with him, because he shares so many of our values, and we really want you to buy the rings. I mean, it helps the show, sure, but it helps us. We're getting rings. We have rings on the way, yes, and we're going to wear them. We're going to start wearing them. But this is a great way, in all seriousness, and I am serious about everything I've said thus far, but in all seriousness, it's a great way to get a wedding band, engagement band, anniversary, a ring that looks awesome. I mean, it's just easy. It's something nice to do. You want to get your dad or mom or brother or sister or something, your best friend, your fiance. This is a great way to spend hundreds of dollars, and it looks so much more expensive than it is. It looks so much more expensive than it is, okay? And it's so easy. You don't have to go to Colorado and try to find this guy in a canyon, okay? You don't have to go find, you know, the dilapidated van he lives in the middle of a brush clearing. You don't have to do that. You can easily go to anvilrings.com. That's ANVILRINGS.com and use promo code Tim to get 20% off. Anvilrings.com, promo code Tim to get 20% off a ring. Do it right now. Send me a photo of the ring that you got. We'll post it on our social media, and we'll tell you you're a good person. And then, just like a Save the Children ad, we will update you you know how to Save the Children ads, like, hey, your money went to buy grain for the child, or whatever it is. We will show you the automatic weapon that this gentleman purchased with your ring, with the money you paid for the ring. So that is anvilrings.com, promo code TIM, T-I-M, 20% off. Now, for people that don't know who Ghislaine Maxwell is, give us a little background, because you've really done some work on, most people know that her father was a media mogul who had intelligence ties to the Mossad, but you've really done a deep dive on the family. Talk a little bit about these fun folks.
All right. Well, there are a lot of places we could go with that, because it is really extensive. I mean, Robert Maxwell did not just have links or ties to Israeli intelligence. I mean, he was a spy, period. Right? He was involved with Israel before it was even founded. He was involved in getting, for example, the Czech Republic to send weapons to Zionist paramilitaries before the founding of the State of Israel. So his involvement in airplane parts and things like that, having those smuggled in. He was very involved with that whole, pre-existence of the State of Israel conflict, right? And that continued well after. I mean, let's remember, too, that Robert Maxwell's funeral was attended by 6 former and current heads of Israeli intelligence. The person that gave the eulogy was Prime Minister at the time, Itzhak Shamir, who said Robert Maxwell has done more for Israel than I can say today, and things like that, right? So it's not just like the guy had incidental links to Israel. He was also just involved in a ton of well-known, Israeli espionage activities, including the Promise software scandal, Iran-Contra, the honeypot entrapment of Israeli nuclear weapons whistleblower Mordecai Benunu, among numerous others, right?
Going to the Promise software, just out of curiosity, you've mentioned that before. What was that?
So it's kind of a it's a very complex case, right? But to give like a brief summary, it was basically the software that was developed by the Bill and Nancy Hamilton of Inslaw Inc. And they originally sold it and leased it essentially to the Department of Justice under Reagan in like 1982. At which point the Department of Justice, basically through Ed Meese and this other guy that was sort of in the Reagan administration orbit named Earl Bryan, basically made plans with this guy who was a very famous Israeli intelligence operative named Rafi Eitan to essentially steal this software by basically taking it and not making payments to Inslaw for its use anymore, and then adapting it by inserting a back door into that software, which was then sold to governments, intelligence agencies, and corporations and banks all over the world. Not just by people like Earl Bryan, who I just mentioned, who made a company specifically for selling software, but Robert Maxwell had a Mossad tech front company called Degum that he used to sell that software, not just throughout the Middle East, but also in the Americas, Central and South America. Robert Maxwell also sold it to sensitive U.S. national laboratories in New Mexico that were used to allow Israel to gain access to that at a time when they were spying heavily on U.S. Scientific and technological research, part of which is related to their nuclear weapons program. He also sold it to Russian intelligence, to the KGB. So Robert Maxwell was very involved, but also involved were people in the Clinton orbit, including Jackson Stevens' company, who was a major, political donor to the Clintons. Systematics was the company through which they did that, right? Which had ties to Rose Law Firm, which was Hillary Clinton's law firm at the time, and Vince Foster and all of that.
So when you talk about a back door, the software had a back door. The back door would be used to extract information from.
Right. So basically, any computer on which the software would install, that back door would allow Israeli intelligence access to whatever was on the computer.
So this was an act of overt espionage, covert espionage.
Oh,
yeah.
Right. But, people in the U.S. knew the back door was there because they helped sell it, and they knew Israel had access to it. So they essentially allowed Israel's intelligence access to computers on sensitive U.S. databases, for example. Right, but also in other countries, But that's kind of treasonous, isn't it? Especially if you're in the Reagan administration.
Certainly, yeah. And Robert Maxwell also was a major media mogul in the UK, and he owned, was it 6 newspapers? I forget. He owned a lot of.
Right. He was also a media mogul in Israel and set up newspapers there that still exist today. He also, at one point, owned the New York Daily News.
Really?
He was trying to expand into television. At one point, but unsuccessfully. He hated Rupert Murdoch. He was very jealous of him and wanted to be like Rupert Murdoch and have this TV empire, but he didn't succeed in building.
It's funny. We just keep hearing like planes or motorcycles. I love every time you're on the show. You're in like a safe house somewhere, and I just don't know what's happening. I just imagine people are loading planes, and then right after this interview's done, you leave, and then a drone strike just destroys whatever, and then you just get on a plane somewhere and go. We just hear
my life sound a lot more exciting than it really is.
Yeah.
I kind of like it.
No, it's just funny. Like all we hear, you're like talking about Promise software, and in the back we hear like, get out. So Maxwell, obviously the guy is a spy. He's an Israeli spy. There's a lot of Israeli spies, but this guy assimilates into British high society.
Yes.
Yeah, and he becomes, the Mossad is one of the most successful intelligence agencies in the world, and they've, I think the Minister of Syrian Defense at one time was a Mossad agent. Like, they really infiltrate places. They're very good at it. And so for Maxwell's entire career, and Seymour Hersh, I think, wrote a book about him, about his activities too.
He was mentioned in The Samson Option, which is about Israel's nuclear weapons program, and that directly discussed Maxwell's involvement in the arrest of the whistleblower about Israel's nuclear weapons program, Mordecai Benin.
Right. So this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is as factual as you get. Who are his children?
Right. Well, it depends on which one you want to start with, right? But what's interesting, I think arguably the most important are Delaine's twin sisters, Christine and Isabel, who get very little attention. But really quickly,
where are they? Are they on TikTok?
No. One of them, I think, now teaches at the University of Texas. Another one I'm not exactly sure what she's doing now, because a lot of what I've looked at are their involvement in the tech industry, because one of them, Christine in particular, was involved with a very, very shady software program, counterterrorism program that was put on the databases of the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, and a bunch of other sensitive databases for U.S. intelligence and U.S. national security. And her father, of course, was the promised software salesman. And apparently no one saw any problems with that, right? We can get into that, I guess, in more detail. But basically what these sisters did is that they created one of the first search engines called Magellan in the mid-90s. And actually in that company, it wasn't just the twins, but also Ghislaine Maxwell had a stake in that, as did her brother Kevin Maxwell, who was sort of Robert Maxwell's heir apparent, and sort of inherited his media empire after his death, that of course collapsed soon after because it had, was in major financial difficulty.
Well, Robert Maxwell had stolen a lot of money from his employees, right? He stole hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah.
Right. Well, also it was more than that. It wasn't just, the official story is that he just embezzled funds for his own use, which is also true. But the reason, the money for him to even purchase that media group had come from Mossad and Mossad backers, financiers of Mossad. And so what a lot of that money was used for, Maxwell basically got in the habit on Mossad's behalf of taking money out of that pension fund. It was used to finance Mossad activities in Europe. And then after those operations concluded, the money would be put back in, right, to these pension funds. But as this was going on over time, Maxwell started taking money for him because he lived a very ostentatious lifestyle. He was very fond of prostitutes and things of that nature. So, he spent money on a lot of things, right?
Right. So his two daughters are living in the U.S. at the time they developed Magellan?
Yeah, they moved to Silicon Valley after Robert Maxwell died. And they created the search engine. It was sold off to Excite. It doesn't exist anymore because, Google basically made it irrelevant, right? Though actually Excite, which acquired this search engine, tried to buy Google at one point, but it didn't work out. But basically what happened after this company was sold off, Magellan was sold off, is that Christine Maxwell created this company called Chiliad. And what Chiliad basically became this data analysis software that after September 11th was heavily promoted as I don't know how much you have gone into 9/11 on your show, right? But basically it was claimed after the official narrative of 9/11 came out that only this software was capable of connecting the dots that explained the official narrative of 9/11 that, U.S. intelligence missed prior to the attacks, right? And so after that, the 9/11 Commission claimed, basically gave this company the only A on their report card for counterterrorism and counterintelligence software, leading to it being installed on all of these, sensitive databases in the U.S. And what's interesting is that one of the members of the 9/11 Commission that pushed really hard for Chiliad was a guy named John Lehman, who was Secretary of the Navy under Reagan and used to be a frequent guest on Robert Maxwell's yacht.
So this is like Promise 2.
Yeah.
Now, it's amazing to me, you had said on Twitter that the type of operations that Epstein and Ghislaine were running were no longer going to be necessary or not as necessary because a lot of blackmail was now just going to be tech. So explain that, because this is very interesting. I had no idea how deeply connected the Maxwell family was to these major tech companies.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, Isabel Maxwell had a separate company that's an Israeli-based company that's now called Siren, but was previously called ComTouch. And she was the president of that company. And they run, their software is integrated into numerous aspects of Microsoft Windows. They're run by Google and also on Dell computers, right? So, it's not just Christine's Chiliad, it's also, running on all these Windows computers all over the world, Isabel's Maxwell stuff. But anyway, in terms of what I'm saying about why the people that sponsored Epstein and Ghislaine, are favoring tech stuff is because, all you have to do is look at what Epstein did started to do right before he was arrested last year, or what he was doing right before he was arrested last year, and what he started to do around the year 2012, which is a really key year for a lot of this stuff, right? What he started to do is he started to rebrand as a tech investor. He got interested in Silicon Valley. He started going to a lot of Silicon Valley parties, and he claimed that he had a lot of blackmail on people from Silicon Valley, right? And he was talking, he had ties, to like Elon Musk. He was at events with Mark Zuckerberg. He was, he invited Sergey Brin, one of the Google co-founders, over to his house. He was really ingratiating himself with Silicon Valley's elite, right? Which is very interesting, especially when you consider the fact that he was one of the major funders of a company called Carbine 911 that was chaired and directed until just very recently by Ehud Barak, right, who was head of Israeli military intelligence when Epstein was recruited to work there, which was facilitated by Robert Maxwell in the 1980s, right? And then Ehud Barak was prime minister of Israel, and was, went to Epstein's island. He also went to the apartments owned by Epstein's brother that were full of underage Eastern European girls and spent the night there on several occasions. Right.
So this is the new battleground for information, clearly, is the digital space. So if you're an intelligence agency and you want to gain knowledge, you want to gain information and power and blackmail, the way to do that now is through blackmail as opposed to like just the honeypot operations that they were running on Epstein's island. And do you think the entire family's involved? Like you have Ghislaine's sisters doing this? Do they know what they're doing? Are all of these people in
I think so.
Yeah. Right.
So like one of Isabel Maxwell's companies that she's involved in is called Israel Venture Capital, I believe, and one of their main backers is a venture capital firm called Riyadh Capital Partners, and they are made by Israel's former members of Israel's Unit 8200, which is part of Israel's military intelligence, and they openly say they only invest in companies that are full of former Israeli military intelligence guys. But talking about this whole tech thing and what I brought up about 2012, it's really important to point some things out because basically I think they got to the point where they don't even try and hide it anymore. So in 2012, this policy began, and this was reported in Israeli media, but not in the U.S. media, right? These former and current government and intelligence officials told this Israeli media outlet, Calculus Tech, that in 2012, this decision was made to take operations that had previously been conducted in-house by Mossad and Israel's military intelligence and to spin them off and have them be instead conducted by private companies, some of which were created for that explicit purpose. One of those companies named in the article is Black Q, right? Whose former board of chairman used to be Mayor Dagan, head of the Mossad. And of course, they basically act like a privatized Mossad, right? But they were set up to be an actual privatized Mossad. And they are not the only company like this. There have been numerous companies that have just become huge since 2012 that have been direct beneficiaries of that policy, right? So an example would be this company called Cyber Reason, whose CEO, he straight up says in an interview, it's just really crazy. He says his work at this company, Cyber Reason, which is a cybersecurity company, is a direct continuation of his service to Unit 8200. And at Unit 8200, he was the head of the unit that was involved in the offensive hacking of nation states. Right, and he's at the cybersecurity company, which, by the way, is running on a bunch of Pentagon computers, CIA and NSA computers, just like Chiliad was. And it's no coincidence, I think, that Chiliad's operations in the U.S. as a U.S. government contractor started to wind down right in 2012 when this new policy became, overt, right?
Right. I mean, this is wild. I mean, you've done so much research. It's amazing that you keep all these names of these companies straight because it's very hard, I'm sure, to find these things out. I mean, I'm sure, you do your research and everything like that. What do you say to people that say that this is a paranoid or that it's anti-Semitic or any of the things that I see people throw at you on Twitter, which I don't think there's a basis for? It's not your fault that Robert Maxwell did not work for, French intelligence,
Right.
Well, what do you say to people that say this is, it's amazing to me that this guy we know is a spy. His daughter's running a honeypot with Epstein. His other two daughters are selling software to the U.S. government security software. And who are the other kids? But I mean, before that, what is it? What do you say to people that go, she just hates Jews?
Right. So the reason my focus, ever since I've been writing, is to report undercovered stories. And unfortunately, there is just a lack of coverage of these things. That report I just mentioned that appeared in the Israeli media outlet Calculus Tech should have been covered in the U.S. You would think that would be big news, right? But no one covered it. Right. So so I think that should be covered, so I'm going to cover it, right? And so, a lot of my research just ended up being on undercovered things, a lot of which had to do with Israel, but I think it's very, important also. But let's keep in mind too that a lot of this, these Unit 8200 and these Mossad companies or whatever, a lot of them have members of U.S. intelligence or, people from the U.S. national security state on their board or as investors and things like that. I mean, it's definitely something that transcends just Israel as a nation and involves, U.S. intelligence, also British intelligence. And things like that. Israel, even just as a state, had a lot of the reason it even exists as a state is because of, the politics and the actions of the British Empire at the time and also the United States. Right. So,
and it's like when you're talking about the Mossad, you're not talking about Israeli people or Jewish people. No. And it's like when I say the CIA killed Kennedy, I don't mean my Uncle Steve killed Kennedy. I mean the CIA, yeah. So
right. So if you're like criticizing Mossad and people say that's anti-Semitic, I mean that's sort of like if you want to criticize the CIA in the U.S. and people are like, oh, well, that's anti-American. I mean, who thinks that, right? Intelligence agencies, by virtue of what they do, operate as organized criminal organizations.
Correct.
They deserve to be criticized, right? If Israel's military intelligence was involved in a pedophile honeypot, like Epstein and Maxwell, well, it's also historical fact the CIA has been involved in numerous such operations in the past, right? So it's okay to criticize the CIA for doing a horrible act like that, but it's not okay to criticize, Israeli intelligence.
Right.
It's okay for them to support pedophilia in the pursuit of political control and influence. I mean, no. So, it's just a matter of I'm just willing to talk about this, and a lot of people unfortunately are not.
Right. So who are the other kids? You have Isabel, you have Ghislaine Maxwell, you have Isabel. Who's the other?
I think in total there were like 7 siblings, and one of them died when she was like 3 years old. There was another one that died at 23. But the other ones that are best well known are Kevin and Ian Maxwell, who recently just set up a think tank called like Combating Jihadist Extremism.
Great.
Or something like that. But
there's nobody in the family who's like an electrician.
Right. So anyway, Kevin Maxwell has ties to banks like Goldman Sachs, but he got, his public reputation as a businessman really took a huge nosedive because of what happened to his father's media empire that he inherited after Robert Maxwell's death, and became known as one of the biggest bankrupts in all of Britain and things like that. But I think there's a lot more to these guys than in the official story, because in some of these old reports that you can find up and dig up from the 90s that are talking about where is the Maxwell family now from like British media, they'll say things like, this year, Ian Maxwell is director of 31 different companies. Okay, so like if someone spends all their time being directors of companies, or on boards of companies, it's like under 10. I mean, 30 is a lot. So given Robert Maxwell's history of having just like infinite front companies, I think it's very possible that some of the Maxwell boys were also doing that, because it wasn't just Ian Maxwell that had, randomly 30 companies. Kevin Maxwell also had, like, in another report said he had 22 at any, in this particular year. So between the two of them, they're directors of over 50 companies, a lot of which don't exist anymore, and they go bankrupt, and then they just disappear, and then they make new ones. I mean, it's all very odd. But it's worth pointing out, too, that Robert Maxwell was very controlling of his children and was also known to have set up lots of companies and lots of small corporate entities for their use. So, for example, when Ghislaine Maxwell, after her father's death, moves to New York City, she obtains control of something Robert Maxwell had already made for her called Maxwell Corporate Gifts. in which she started to move money around. And people didn't understand how she is officially supposed to have a small income because the father's, media empire collapsed and they're supposed to have no money, right? But somehow she's able to just come up with all these millions. Of course, it's later claimed that's Epstein's, but she had this, these corporate entities just waiting for her around for her use, right?
Yeah.
As soon as she got there.
Yeah, so intelligence is the family business, clearly.
Yeah.
So you have the two sisters running tech companies. You have the two brothers running front companies. Why does Ghislaine get the pedophile ring? Do you think he was at Christmas or Hanukkah, whatever, was going through everybody and goes, you're going to do tech, you're going to do this, and Ghislaine, you're going to do pedophilia. And was she like, but I want to do tech. And he's like, you're not meant for that. You go put those girls in a van.
Right. So a lot of times in media reports, Ghislaine is sort of treated as, they say, oh, she's the child that inherited his charisma and social ambition and all of this. But apparently, as I mentioned earlier, Robert Maxwell had, spent tons of money on prostitutes. And actually, when he would go to visit Israel, they would have several prostitutes waiting for him upon his arrival, right? So he was kind of an interesting guy, right? So based on what we know about Ghislaine, it seems like she seemed to have inherited that as well. But let's talk about the types of circles that Ghislaine Maxwell was involved in the 1980s before she started this operation with Epstein in 1991, right? As an example, she was involved with some guy that later, had close ties to this guy, this conservative politician in the UK named Harvey Procter. Harvey Procter was accused of being part of a VIP pedophile ring, the same one that was run by Jimmy Savile, and also involved former Prime Minister of the UK, Ted Heath, right? So this is one of the people she was dating during that period of time, allegedly. One of her other boyfriends that preceded Epstein was this Italian guy who was a count, and his grandfather was Mussolini's finance minister and had deep ties to Italian intelligence. Right? So these are the kinds of people she was dating. Also, other weird things, she was known to have been associated with the royal family. Then Maria Farmer saw pictures of her, with Prince Andrew at quite young ages, like young teenagers and things like that. Right? So those ties go back quite far. Of course, the royal family had ties to that whole Jimmy Savile network, and also a lot of, shady activities like that, which is why it's not that odd, I guess, at the end of the day, why Prince Andrew would associate himself with people like Jeffrey Epstein in a public way years later, right? But another thing that's odd about Ghislaine, one incident that has gotten very little coverage that Ghislaine was involved in the 1980s is that in 1985, she throws a gala at this house of these nobles, British nobles, who I believe were like the Marquess of Bath or something like that, were their titles, and it was to benefit Save the Children, right, in 1985. And right after that gala ended, the son of those nobles, of the Marquess of Bath, was found hanging with a bedspread around his neck. And that's normal for Ghislaine, I guess.
Hold on.
In the 1980s.
Go over that again. She's having a dinner party for the nobles.
It's a gala to benefit Save the Children. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
The organization or whatever. And it's held at these nobles' house, the Marquess of Bath, right?
Yeah.
It's attended by members of the royal family.
Right.
At the end of the gala, the son of the Marquess of Bath is found dead hanging with a bedspread around his neck at a separate location, but it's immediately after this gala that he was at, that was hosted at his parents' house. Just seems odd. And also odd that someone like Ghislaine Maxwell, who at that same time was involved with this guy that was, had this close relationship with Harvey Procter, is going on, and she's throwing a party for Save the Children. And if anyone wants to look into that organization, I really recommend the work of independent journalist Vanessa Beeley, who has shown very convincingly that Save the Children is into a lot of very shady things and has been for a long time, despite its name.
That's why I don't donate to charity across the board. I love earbuds, but they suck. Apple sucks. They're a cult, China, the whole thing. I mean, not that I have a problem with China, but there's questions. The newest model, the E25 earbuds, are the best ones yet with 6 hours of playtime. That's what's really great about these things. I have them and they just go 6 hours. And what are you doing this longer than 6 hours, okay? Seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, and a compact design that gives you a nice noise isolating fit. Raycon's wireless earbuds are so comfortable, they're perfect for conference calls or binging podcasts. So if you want to go on a hike or a long workout, or you just want to clean your house, it's going to take a few hours. There's no worry that these things are going to die out. You know, the Apple earbuds die out immediately. Okay, Raycon earbuds are both stylish and discreet with no dangling wires or stems to distract anyone during video calls. You've heard me talk about how the company was co-founded by Ray J and other celebrities. Snoop Dogg, Cardi B, Melissa Etheridge, all my personal friends are obsessed with Raycons. Pick up a pair and see what the hype is all about. I love these because they do last 6 hours. Then they charge up very quickly, and they go another 6 hours. It's so important. So now's the time to get the latest and greatest from Raycon. This really helps our show, and it helps you if you need earbuds. And if you don't, buy them anyway and have them there because you're going to lose your Apple ones, and you don't want to go back into the Apple store. They don't even exist. You have to go online. It's all processed, and they suck anyway. So get 15% off your order. buyraycon.com/Tim, T-I-M. That's buyraycon.com/TIM. Use the promo code 15% off your order for wireless earbuds. It helps fund the work that we do here and the work that Raycon does. These headphones are great. You're going to love it. I enjoy them. They last very long. Thank you. When I was a kid, my favorite cereal was Lucky Charms, and my parents would never buy them for me. But I love sugar cereals. In fact, many fat people get hooked on sugar cereals when they're children. That's why the cereals are always 3 feet. All the bad cereals are low. They're like 3 or 4 feet tall so that they're on the eye line of the child in the store. The child can grab them. It's an old advertising trick, old marketing trick, okay? But here, no tricks, just goodness. Magic Spoon cereal is one of my favorites. You can indulge in any of the classic flavors, cocoa, fruity, frosted, or blueberry, plus a variety pack that lets you try all 4. My favorite flavor is fruity. It tastes like Fruit Loops, exactly. It simulates the experience you've had when you're eating Fruit Loops at your grandparents' house when you were a child and life made sense. Magic Spoon spent over a year working with the best food scientists and chefs in the world to recreate the taste and texture, and that's the most important thing, of classic sugary cereal, but it tastes so incredible that you'd never guess it was healthy. It's keto-friendly? What? Gluten-free? Fuck you. Grain-free? Fuck your mother. Soy-free? What? Low-carb? I'll kill you where you stand. And GMO-free. You've got to try it to believe it. It tastes amazing. Everybody loves Magic Spoon. Everybody buys it. It's a little pricey, but what is the price you put on your health and your children's health? If you have children, you need to get them on this cereal. I'm telling you right now. Otherwise, they're going to grow up to be fat little pigs. MagicSpoon.com/Tim Dillon. MagicSpoon.com/Tim Dillon. Grab a variety pack and try it today. Our promo code is Tim Dillon at checkout. You get free shipping. It's easy. It's my name. I love this cereal. I eat it. Everyone in Hollywood eats it. And if you hate Hollywood, everyone in your favorite culture eats it. Whether it's sports or the Trump family all eats it. Everyone at Fox News eats it. It's Tucker Carlson's favorite. Whatever you want. Whatever you like. You know, everybody eats this. The Democrats, the Republicans, everybody. You want to know what Jeffrey Epstein's last meal was? Magic Spoon cereal. He had it and he said nothing could possibly be better than this, so I'm going to hang myself right after it. After he had Magic Spoon's fruity flavor, he said to one of the guards, he goes, "What is this?" And the guard goes, It's some keto cereal. Epstein goes, "This is keto?" And the guy's like, "Yeah." And Epstein goes, "String me up." Because I don't believe it. Call me crazy, but if the cereal could taste this good and be keto, there's nothing else good coming. We've reached the zenith point of civilization. Hang me from this bed that looks like it would be hard to hang me from because I'm 6 foot something. So, and he did it. And he did it out of joy. He was so happy. Magic Spoon cereal. It's just, I love it. You love it. The kids love it. Everybody loves it. Get your little fat kids' fucking hands off the bad shit and get them on the Magic Spoon. If you should be arrested for child abuse with what you serve to the kids. Child abuse. Go through any grocery store. Everything that's aimed for kids is like disgusting. It's like s'mores pudding pops, you know, with Jolly Rancher sauce, deep fried, and it's grotesque. Give them something nice, something that they'll remember, and they'll grow up to love you, not like, you know, the way fucking, you know, I feel about my family, which is it's a strong like, but I also, if they were killed in a drone strike, I would say, yeah. So the way I feel is you go to magicspoon.com/Tim Dillon, magicspoon.com/Tim Dillon. Eat it. If you're getting ready for a wedding, man, this is it. If you're trying to lose weight, you want to use the summer to get in shape. You're quarantined. You can't go out anyway. Get that summer bod ready for next summer. You know, when all the oceans are running red with the blood of the whatever. But you'll still look hot. Magicspoon.com/Tim Dillon. Really try it. I am the most honest person in the country. And I'm telling you right now, I've eaten this cereal. I've enjoyed the cereal. I will enjoy the cereal again. And I will not speak to my parents until they start eating this cereal. So what are these people all united by just having millions of dollars and having sex with children? Is this seem to be how our entire planet run? No, I mean, it's a genuinely serious question. Like, when we start, I mean, is this who's running the planet? I mean, it seems to all kind of add up, where it's like they use this, you know, sick thing to keep each other in check. How do you think this all works? Do these people just... This is just a way to keep people quiet, keep them in line? They all I mean, is there anybody who's successful? Like, is there anyone who's not a pedophile who's doing it? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, I can't really give you a definitive answer to that, but, you know, what I can say is that, you know, a lot of people in this orbit, right, this Epstein network, whatever you want to call it, just have a history of just blackmail or ties to organized crime or ties to intelligence. Right. And blackmail for these people, I mean, they don't live like regular people do, you know?
Right.
So, like, take Les Webster, for example.
Right.
When Maria Farmer was at his guest house, she was like, normal people don't live like this. You know, they spent hours watching her through pinhole cameras in that guest house.
Right.
To see everything she was doing. I mean, that's not how normal people live. They have so much money, but they're so paranoid. Right. I mean, because that's how like mob families are, and that's how these families are too, right? And you look at someone like the Bronfman family that's tied up in a lot of this stuff too. They were tied up in Nexium, right? Which also had like elements of blackmail and all of that there too. And then also like, you know, one of Edgar Bronfman's kids tried to blackmail him in the 1980s, faking his own kidnapping and things like that to his own father to get like more money from his own dad.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's just how these families just seem to operate. I mean, you almost feel bad for them, but then you realize that they're horrendous, evil criminals that belong behind bars for the rest of their lives because of their crimes against children and other people, right? But I mean, they just like, they don't exist like we do, like regular people do, I guess, you know?
Right, they're constantly jockeying for position. It's like kind of like Game of Thrones. You have all these powerful families. They all have tons of money. They all want more money. It's never enough. And any information they have on each other or any of these, you know, elite circles that they can penetrate, there seems to be some type of cost of admission. And it might not always be pedophilia, but it also could be like financial crime. Or it could be like your willingness to, you know, infiltrate a government agency and give information. Everybody's got something on somebody else. So Ghislaine,
I think that's fair to say. But let's keep in mind too that like this practice of sexual blackmail and these types of operations, including those involving children, I mean, they go back to like the 1940s,
right?
Possibly even earlier, right? So the fact that they've been doing this for so long, it's just like, well, this is how things are, and as long as we, abide by a certain set of rules that this group follows or whatever, you know, we can, you know, rape kids as much as we want and stuff like that, right? And, you know, as far as how rampant...
what gets me is like, is there anyone that's like, instead of raping kids, let's go on the boat? Like, is there any rich person who's like, let's not rape kids today, we can have brunch? Like, it just, is there anybody, it's crazy. It's like, truly evil human beings. The Clintons and Trump. I don't want to, the reason I haven't asked you until this long in the interview is 'cause I don't want this to be a political story. Like, I don't want it to be politicized and become a battering ram where people on the left go, it's Trump, and people on the right.
It's bipartisan.
Right.
I mean,
it is bipartisan. Yeah. Right. Evil satanic pedophile cabals are bipartisan. And my audience should know that. Where do you see that the Clintons and the Trumps, how are they enmeshed in this? Are they just kind of functionaries in terms of they run the United States government? How close are they with these people?
All right, neither of them are clean, but in order to really explain the relationships, the relationships to this whole thing, I mean, it takes some time, right? Because the official stories about their involvement are just, in my opinion, very superficial. I guess probably one of the easiest to start with, because the Trump one's more complex because a lot of it precedes 2000. Right, a lot of the closer involvement between Trump and Epstein happened before then, but that's also true for Bill Clinton, right? Because the official story about Bill Clinton and Epstein says that Bill Clinton didn't get involved with Epstein until he wasn't president anymore. This is complete BS, right? So what we know, right? As I mentioned earlier, so like the Clintons had some involvement in this Promise software stuff. I mean, they were kind of in this orbit anyway. Not just through Promise, but also the Iran-Contra stuff, which this Epstein network and the Maxwells and all this stuff were also involved through what was going on in Mena, Arkansas.
Correct.
I mean, involved in Iran-Contra in a huge way. Bill Clinton had a relationship with the CIA with Bill Casey. Bill Barr actually acted as an emissary of Bill Casey to Bill Clinton on several occasions, right? Another reason why he is shady as fuck, right? So anyway, that's how this is all before he even becomes president. But as soon as he becomes president, remember that Epstein and Maxwell officially teamed up in New York in 1991. As soon as he becomes president in 1993, they're attending donor dinners, fancy donor dinners, right, for the Clintons. And not long after that, Jeffrey Epstein, that same year, makes several White House visits, and he meets the deputy chief of staff on several occasions. What they discussed, I don't really know. But in 1995, we do know that Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, right, sends this letter to Bill Clinton that you can find, actually was provided by the Presidential Library of Bill Clinton. It says, basically talks about how she had met Bill Clinton at then Senator Ted Kennedy's house, and she didn't have much time to talk to him and had all these other things she wanted to talk about him. And she said in what she called this brief window of time to talk to the president, her 15 seconds of access, she talked to Bill Clinton about two things: currency stabilization and Jeffrey Epstein. This is in 1995. In 1995, Maria Farmer was decorating, right, and working as this artist in residence for Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. She remembers more than one occasion where everyone was ordered out, but they spent all day preparing for Bill Clinton to come. And Ghislaine Maxwell was running around yelling, "The president's coming!" and all this stuff. And the only people that were allowed to stay was the personal chef of Epstein, who died last month under sudden circumstances and no funeral because of the coronavirus. Right? Everyone's ordered out but the chef and the girls. There's no security details for Bill Clinton. And he's a sitting president at this time, right? So
very strange.
Right. And this is all before the official, the relationship comes out in the open, and Epstein is involved in the Clinton Foundation. Ghislaine is involved in the Clinton Global Initiative. All of the island visits, the flight logs, and all of that takes place, right?
Right. So what are Hillary and Bill doing right now? I mean, other than sharpening knives. What do you think do you think they're nervous? Do these people get nervous? Are these elites kind of like, ugh?
Well, I think with the Ghislaine Maxwell arrest, I don't think any of these people are getting nervous based on how this is going to play out. Because I think it's going to be a protracted legal trial that is going to get buried in the insane news cycle in which we now live, which involves coronavirus, civil unrest, protests, major geopolitical tensions. I mean, it's very easy to bury the Epstein story, unlike last year. And like I said, it's very clear to me anyway, they're going to let her post bail, and she's not going to end up in the situation Epstein was in, because Epstein was only there because he was denied bail.
Do you think they're going to let Ghislaine Maxwell, the definition of a flight risk, post bail?
Yeah, I think.
Wow.
But because of the charges she's facing, they are so light. Right.
Right.
In contrast to Epstein, right, who last year was denied bail because of the crimes were much more egregious that he was officially charged with, is what I'm talking about.
Right.
So, to deny someone the ability to post bail when they are only charged with enticing minors to travel.
Yeah.
Why did they choose those charges specifically? Why didn't they charge her with statutory rape? Why did they, keep it at 94 to 1997, right? Well, actually, I can tell you why. It's because in that period of time, Prince Andrew and Alan Dershowitz were not, and Bill Clinton officially, were not on the orbit yet, right? So they don't have to be pulled into this upcoming trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. It focuses on a time when none of them were, officially involved.
Interesting. So there's no chance they get pulled into it.
No.
Right. Now, what about Trump? Is there any chance he's pulled into it in any way?
Well, no, because, based on these charges, no, right? But, Trump and his ex-wife, Ivana, were in the Epstein orbit to a significant degree during that time frame, right? Remember, Maria Farmer, said that she personally witnessed Ivana Trump going out with Ghislaine and recruiting preteen girls in school uniforms to come by Jeffrey Epstein's office and, see if they could be future Victoria's Secret models.
Yeah. It's really crazy. Trump did kick Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago because he was hitting on an underage girl. So we'll give.
Yeah, well, there's a longer history to them, right? Because okay, right. So you have to go back to the 1980s and see what Epstein was doing then, right? So basically what Epstein was doing in this period of time, he was doing a lot of shady financial activity for intelligence and intelligence operatives, but he was also, with Leslie Wexner, doing a lot of money laundering through real estate and a lot of shady real estate deals at Manhattan, right? Of course, that's Trump's whole orbit too, right? And during this period of time in the 1980s, Epstein, Trump, and this guy named Tom Barrack, who's still pretty close to Trump and head of Colony Capital, were called the Three Musketeers of New York nightlife, because they would go to clubs and get with women together and be seen together so frequently. And they were all in that same age range more or less, and involved in the same shady real estate deals. And that's ultimately where a lot of that relationship comes from. So it's worth pointing out that Maria Farmer did say that in 1995, she saw Donald Trump and he gave her this she found it to be a very disturbing look. And then Jeffrey Epstein said to Trump, "Oh, she's not here for you." Implying that there was some other type of girl that he would set Trump up with. Right, but this was one occasion, but it was enough to make an impact on her, right? And of course, there is that accusation of this girl who claimed that she had been raped by Trump at this event with Epstein in 1994, I believe it was. So there are these claims going around, but as far as I see it, right, a lot of their relationship was based around this shady real estate stuff that Epstein continued to do well into the late 1990s. Why was there a falling out between Epstein and Trump? Well, a lot of it had to do with this property in Palm Beach that Jeffrey Epstein wanted to buy, ostensibly for this money laundering real estate purpose or some shady real estate deal. He invites Trump to come see the property. And Trump, says, they talk about it, whatever. And then Trump ends up stealing that property from Epstein and doing what Epstein wanted to do and sells it to this really rich Eastern European guy, maybe Russian billionaire or something like that, who never actually lives in the property but pays a bunch of money for it. And then it just gets the house gets demolished and, really shady transaction, basically.
Of course.
But after that, apparently what Epstein tried to do at Mar-a-Lago when he was kicked out had to do with an attempt by Epstein to get back at Trump for what had happened there and sort of get Trump set up with a minor or have a minor get caught in some sort of sexual situation at Mar-a-Lago to put pressure on Trump.
So this is just a game they play. This is just the way that people are playing this game. are there other intelligence families that are similar to the Maxwells where you have a lot of different kids? I mean, is this something like you have families of, very successful people in sports, or you have, are there just intelligence families? Is this a thing?
I mean, Bill Barr and Donald Barr are an example of that. And also, I believe Bill Barr's daughter also is involved in, in the DOJ as some sort of prosecutor related to drug trafficking, which is interesting considering, her father's involvement with the CIA during Iran-Contra, which was also, an arms trafficking and drug trafficking scandal.
Right. So it's like a lot of these families, like the Bronfman family, are they? Do you think they have ties? They're a pretty big.
Yeah. I mean, they're part of this whole mega group thing that was co-founded by Charles Bronfman and Leslie Wexner in 1991. And a lot of people, most of the members of that have ties to the National Crime Syndicate, which is the coming together really of the Italian mafia and the Jewish mob in the early 1920s that got in bed with the CIA during World War II. And the Jewish mob aspect of that got very involved with Israeli intelligence as soon as it was formed after the State of Israel, because like Robert Maxwell, they were involved in sending large amounts of weapons to Zionist paramilitaries that resulted in the creation of the State of Israel. And then after, Mossad and the IDF and all that stuff was created, was involved in sending a lot of weapons or money to finance their operations.
Yeah.
Right. So, the ties are very enmeshed. And so, the Jewish mob aspect that was run by mainly Meyer Lansky and all of that stuff during that period of time have deep ties to intelligence and also the political sphere of both countries, right? So the mega group, for example, Ronald Lauder, a close friend of Trump, is basically single-handedly responsible for Benjamin Netanyahu's first election as Israeli prime minister in 1996, right? So, he has pull there, what I mean? He's also a major donor to U.S. politicians, right? Another guy who's sort of in this mega group orbit is this hedge fund manager named Paul Singer, right, who's a big donor to Likud. He's also head of the Republican Jewish Coalition, a major donor to neocons like Marco Rubio, and members of the Republican Party that are very, neoconservative and things like that. He's also the guy in 2012 that created this organization called Startup Nation Central, which is a direct part of that 2012 policy and Unit 8200 private companies, tech companies that I was talking about earlier. And it's actually, based in, Paul Singer is an American, right? And he started that organization with the explicit purpose of having U.S. tech jobs transferred over to Israel and also having these Unit 8200 companies acquired by major U.S. tech companies. He officially says it was so that the U.S. would have to be dependent on Israeli companies so that the U.S. could never support the boycott, divest, and sanctions movement, the BDS.
Right. What is the end game of all this tech supremacy, do you think? Is just to kind of strip everyone of all their rights, put everything, about you in some type of bank, whether it's, your health data, your financial data?
Yeah. I think that's a lot of it, but let's remember this is, Israel is essentially just building the infrastructure for that's being used by the U.S. All of this is happening with the complete blessing of the U.S. government, U.S. intelligence community. That's why you have the former chief information officer for the CIA being on the board alongside an ex-Mossad director of this Israeli cybersecurity company, Sepio Systems. As just one example, right?
Right.
Wired together. But, I think a really good case study about what are these companies doing? I can speculate about what the end game is, right? But I think you can, people that are listening can, come to their own conclusions based on what a company like Carbine 911 is doing. Because remember, this is the company that Epstein put $1 million in. It was directed and chaired by Ehud Barak, former head of Israeli military intelligence and former Israeli prime minister, and pedophile and Epstein pal. Right. So what does Carbine 911 do? Well, actually, before I even get there, let's talk about some of the U.S. people that are on their board. They have Michael Chertoff, former head of DHS. They have another former head of DHS, the one that resigned not that long ago, that was Trump, under Trump, Christian Nielsen is also on there. They have the former head of LAPD, and, I'm forgetting the rest of them, but there's several former U.S. Government officials and law enforcement officials that are on the board of this company, right?
Chris D'Elia? Kidding. Keep going.
No, I don't think he's there. There was also a major, at one point, he's not there anymore, a major Trump donor named Elliot Tawil. He's a New York real estate developer. And there's also one of the other major investors in this company is Peter Thiel, head of Palantir, very close to the Trump administration. Right. And Palantir is a very Orwellian company who has been practicing predictive policing in New Orleans for several years. Right. And has basically been developing. I mean, they basically, in terms of like what the Promise software was capable of doing in terms of data analysis, Palantir does that. And what's very creepy about Palantir is they have a label that you can put on a person, and that label is titled subversive. And you can use that to track their activities, but you label the person of interest subversive, which sounds quite odd, right? But anyway, that's just Palantir. So these are the people essentially behind Carbine. It was co-founded, right, by all these ex-Unit 8200 guys, one of whom recently left the company and now works for Eric Prince. So, a fun group of people at the end of the day, right? So what does this thing do? The Carbine 911 is described as a next generation 911 system. The 911 system, as it exists today in the U.S., is basically varies on a county by county basis. It's essentially very fragmented. There's no nationalized emergency service system in the U.S. So Carbine 911 claims to be the answer to that. They are very closely tied to the main lobby that is pushing for this next generation 911, which is called NG 911, right? They're currently being used in several U.S. counties. So basically what is different about this is that when you call Carbine 911 with your smartphone, the 911 operator doesn't just have access to your audio, they also can see you on your camera and they can get your geolocation. But also what happens when you call with a phone, any number that's connected and uses Carbine 911, all of the data off of your phone gets sucked out of there and goes into the Carbine 911 database. So what happens then? They use artificial intelligence to analyze everything you've done in the past based on all this data they pull off, right? And they also use that to analyze everything you've done from the past to the present based on what's on your phone. And they use it to predict if you will be close to a scene of a crime in the future, if you will be a future victim of a crime or a future perpetrator of a crime.
Wow. That is terrifying.
Yeah. And thanks to coronavirus, they have actually offered other services now, including remote government, and have partnered with the IRS and several DMV locations throughout the U.S.
I could just imagine them looking at my Postmates and Grubhub orders, trying to figure out if I will be a victim of a heart attack or if I will be a perpetrator. So so that's the end game. The end game is basically isolating certain things about you and predicting whether you're going to commit a crime, you might be a victim of a crime. And it's just terrifying when they're just building a case. So you're calling 911 and they're already building a case against you.
Yeah, basically. But it's not, this is just one system, right?
Right.
There's another company just like this that I wrote about. My article on them came out just yesterday called Diagnostic Robotics. They're applying the same idea of pre-crime predictive technology to coronavirus and lockdowns. They've already partnered with the state of Rhode Island, right?
Right.
And this algorithm was developed by the IDF, right?
Right.
And it was founded by ex-Unit 8200 people. It's just.
And
really,
the reason is like you could see okay, contact tracing can prevent the spread of a virus. We can all agree that seems reasonable, but this will never stop there. None of this ever stops there.
So the contact tracing thing, right? It was justified as that, but what has happened since then? Well, when it moved from coronavirus to the protests and civil unrest, contact tracing was used by law enforcement to track people.
Right.
So what do you think, if this diagnostic robotic system, for example, predicts future potential coronavirus hotspots, let me point out that the person that created this company, after Unit 8200, she was immediately recruited by Microsoft. She developed predictive analytic AI-based programs to predict future health outbreaks, but also future outbreaks of riots and civil unrest.
Interesting. Interesting.
And basically, Israel is, because they're partnered with Israel's government and they're using it there right now. They basically promote it as saying, with this technology, we can lock down an area or an entire town in less than a day. Right.
Right. So what this is just a way to establish really total control over the U.S. population or any population that might be angry or they might be protesting. This is a way to kind of clamp down on that really before it even starts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's predictive. I mean, that's the whole point of it. And what's really creepy about that software is that they refer to a person who might get coronavirus in the future as a coronavirus patient at risk of exposure.
That's crazy.
Which implies that everyone is a coronavirus patient. And they're currently developing a treatment system whereby the government can use it and have all this access to your smartphone, right? And can develop this whole system and implement this whole system to mandate medical treatment, mandate testing, and also mandate that you take a vaccine when that becomes available. And they're piloting that right now in India, which is a major partner of a lot of this tech stuff too. Because it's not just the US, right?
So the final frontier is tech. This is the message from Whitney Webb. This is where all of the intelligence types are going. This is where Epstein started focusing all his efforts, in 2012. This is where Ghislaine Maxwell's other family members have been since the 90s. Crazy. This is really, and Google and companies like that are on board. And this is going to this will be, if you have an opinion that no one likes, if you write an article, if you do a podcast, if you say something on your social media that's considered to be antisocial or hateful or offensive, you're going to be able to be removed from those platforms. We're already seeing that. And it's going to be a way to enforce this kind of consensus. That doesn't exist because people are going to be like, no, I don't want this, or I'm angry about this, but it's not going to matter because they're going to have all the levers of power at their control through these systems to just hoard people anywhere they want them to go.
Yeah, well stated.
But they seem like all of these new movements that are popping up, like Black Lives Matter and all this stuff, these companies seem to be paying those movements a lot of lip service.
Well, I think the ultimate goal of a lot of these intelligence-motivated operations is about creating as much chaos in the United States as possible. Because what happens, basically what they want to do is they want to clamp down, right? So can they justify that? Well, if the U.S. gets to a point where there's so much division, because a lot of these people, end up backing both sides, right? So the more divided the U.S. is and the more chaos there is, the more they can justify the imposition of order by force. Right. So, I ultimately think that's where a lot of this is going. Ever since the coronavirus thing started, right, we've seen, the National Guard, there's these continuity of government programs that have been activated in case all of Congress gets coronavirus and can't be there. And then the military will rule briefly, right? And then there was the protests of civil unrest. There were these stories this poll says a majority of Americans want the military on the streets and the end of posse comitatus to restore order. Right. So they're kind of pushing it along that way.
It's like all the articles are like, this poll says Americans want to be vaccinated in their sleep. 70% of Americans want. Yeah, it really...
It's manufacturing consent is what it's about. That poll was probably complete BS, but what it's about is sort of getting people this is I can see this, because that's what polls are meant to manipulate public opinion a lot of times and manufacture consent for things, right? So, that seems to be where a lot of this is heading. It's worth pointing out, too, that company I mentioned earlier in relation to this Unit 8200 stuff, CyberReason, last year, and since then, also this year as well, have done several simulations with top people in the U.S. government that simulated major terrorist attacks on November 3rd, 2020, Election Day. And that a lot of this involved cyber attacks on the power grid, on sewage systems, self-driving cars, which are now being implemented in mass, right, with coronavirus, crashing into people waiting in line to vote, murdering Americans, among other things, right? And this is a company deeply tied to Israeli intelligence and also U.S. intelligence. They're owned by SoftBank, which has ties to Jared Kushner and Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, and they're openly simulating,
So this is a company that they're simulating terrorist attacks on election day of this year.
Yes, and what's also weird is that they have nothing to gain from it financially. They sell cybersecurity software and antivirus software. The simulations they're conducting don't involve the hacking of election machines or any software or any device for which their software operates. Right? They just claim to be doing it because they're so worried that something bad could happen to the U.S.
Do you think all these DDoS attacks that we blame on China, is that a possibility that some of those are maybe, routine, like that they're running these types of simulations?
Let me give you an example. People may have heard, it's not related to China, but, you can see how Unit 8200 operates.
Unit 8200 again, just for everyone who might have forgot, like me. What is Unit 8200?
It's the signals intelligence unit of Israel's military intelligence.
Gotcha.
They're basically
Okay.
just like, they're Israel's NSA.
Gotcha.
Basically. So I forgot what So as an example of how they sort of operate, right? People may remember that there was this story that ran, I believe, first in the Wall Street Journal that said that Kaspersky antivirus software, which is, I think it's like a Russian company, right? And it was running on some U.S. government computers. They claimed that it had a back door, right, for Russian intelligence, okay? And this was widely reported. And of course, in the climate, of Russiagate and all of this, it made some headlines. The origin of that claim didn't come out until weeks later when it was revealed that that claim was given to U.S. officials by members of Unit 8200. What happens afterwards? Kaspersky is banned from being installed on U.S. computers, but who takes over and who becomes the antivirus replacement? Cybereason.
Wow. So, it's just meet the new boss, kind of same as the old boss.
Another thing about the cyber attacks, New York's power grid is currently being operated by Israeli state-owned military contractors. Currently run the hydroelectric dams in New York, and most of its power grid are running the software on that.
When you look at the American media, and so much of it is left versus right, and so many people in America are left versus right.
What choice does Trump have?
Is it ever frustrating to you that nobody kind of sees the bigger picture, where a lot of these people are on the same side, no matter what they say?
Of course it's frustrating, because the whole left-right paradigm is to distract people from the fact that the left and the right, the Democrats and the Republicans, with numerous policies, they're essentially the same. They all support endless war. They all support, the Federal Reserve. They all support the Israel lobby and, giving
Saudi Arabia
$3.8 billion to Israel at a time when how many Americans are unemployed now?
Right.
No, these are all policies that don't change regardless of who's president, regardless of who has a majority in Congress. So, basically the only disagreements are over like a handful of social issues, abortion, gay rights. Maybe that's expanded a little bit more since they've tried to move the left farther to the left and the right farther to the right and all of this, right? But it's essentially the same. No one's talking about the billionaires that have totally, intelligence agencies that are fucking everyone over, right? So that's the whole purpose of that. Of course, it's frustrating. But in terms of the big picture, I'm only just covering, talking about, we've been talking a lot about Israeli intelligence today because of the whole Epstein op, right? But this is just one aspect of the big picture. But I think, one of the reasons that Israeli tech and all of this is being used is because no one in the U.S. media talks about them. So it's the perfect cover. They could be doing this on behalf of U.S. intelligence, and we don't know that, right?
Now, why do you think nobody in the U.S. media talks about them? Is it because they get hit with...
no one wants to be called
anti-Semitic,
names,
right?
No one wants to be called racist. No one wants to be called anti-Semitic, right?
Right.
A lot, but there's some other examples, right? So, for example, there was this really great journalist. I don't think he writes a lot anymore, named Chris Ketchum. He did a lot of really great work on Israeli espionage, the Israeli art student espionage scandal in the early 2000s, and also on continuity of government programs and how terrifying they are, right? Because they were originally created by people like Dick Cheney and Rumsfeld in the 1980s. And I really recommend people look into that. But right after he published some of this stuff on Israeli art students and Israeli espionage in general, continuity of government, right, and some promise software stuff, the whole magazine he wrote at, which was called Radar, was shut down. One of the major shareholders in Radar at the time was Jeffrey Epstein.
Wow. Well, Whitney Webb, I want to thank you for being on our last show on YouTube. We appreciate that. We'll be in a safe house with you. Tell everybody where they can support your work. It's fascinating stuff. You do a lot of work. I mean, you keep the names of these companies straight and the investors straight. And I mean, again, very few people in the U.S. media are doing this types of stuff. And I mean, just to say another thing, we all need security. We know that the purported, the purported reason for these intelligence agencies to exist makes a lot of sense to people. But what people really need to understand is that this is way beyond the scope of like defending America or defending Israel or defending the UK. This is going into another arena, and it's actually preventing people from getting anything out of their government. Like, it's actually preventing people from exercising any self-control over their own government because it completely stacks the deck against any type of representative democracy. When you have this group of elites blackmailing each other, controlling the media, it's a problem.
Big problem.
Absolutely. Well, it's worth pointing out that these intelligence agencies, really, like the CIA, since it was created, has functioned as an organized criminal network,
right?
As the mob, right? And so what they're interested in doing is protecting their business interests in illicit trades, as the mob, right? Whether it's drug running, arms trafficking, human trafficking, the CIA does all of that. Let's remember the CIA's first director was is not only a Nazi sympathizer, he used to work for Sullivan and Cromwell, which before the CIA existed, used to do coups abroad in places like Panama on behalf of corporate clients. And that is what the CIA started off doing under Dulles' leadership, right? The first coup they launched was over bananas, in Central America, and they overthrew a government because of banana interests. Okay, just like what he was doing at Sullivan and Cromwell, and it's been like that ever since, right? It's never been about defending America for the CIA, right? And so the fact that they've never been held accountable for this, because any president or any gets shot in the head, right? Or I mean, just think of all the assassinations in the 60s.
Nixon was removed, Kennedy was assassinated, Reagan was shot. I mean, this happened all the time. Yeah, Martin Luther King was shot. I mean, Bobby Kennedy. Yeah, the list of assassinations in this country or attempted assassinations is wild.
Right, we're ruled by criminals. We're ruled by the mob. And people really need to realize this because these people have had infinite resources for years. They know how to play us off each other and against each other. And what they want to do can only succeed if we continue to let them, play us like that. Right. And we have to recognize, as a country, that the enemy isn't like, the person on the left or the person on the right, the person you don't agree with politically. It's the people, the criminals that have orchestrated all this shit from the beginning that are at the top.
And now you see the cracks. Like, you see the cracks, and people have always seen them, but now things here are no good. Like, it is getting bad, and people can see that. Like, people can see and feel that this country is coming apart at the seams, and a lot of people are looking for a reason, and one of the reasons is because these guys have gotten away with so much for so long, and there's only so long you can, run a country like this, take all of the money, deny people, basic liberties until you get to a tipping point where people are broke, they're out of work, they're angry, they're frustrated, whatever. People always criticize how I say that word. And people are really, they've had it. People have had it for good reason. So, final question, and then I want you to, after you answer it, I want you to tell everyone where to find you. Is there a chance that Ghislaine Maxwell does no jail time and ends up, back in some estate in Europe?
Yeah, I think there is a chance of it. And that's why I think it's really critical. I've seen a lot of people online celebrating her being arrested. And sure, it's great that she's not in a mansion, in New Hampshire right now, allegedly, right? But what people need to do is to put the political pressure on and be like, these charges are a joke and they're not enough, right? I mean, what they're trying to do here, in my opinion, is that after what happened with Epstein last August, right, one of the reasons this case refused to go away, even though they wanted it to, is because people were like, where is Ghislaine, right? Well, now they've found Ghislaine and they're charging her, and now people are praising this, right? And so if we allow them to set the narrative that this is justice for what Ghislaine did, then they will, seal it off and they'll work their best to memory hole it, right?
Yeah.
So the way to fight against that is to be like, these charges are bullshit. This woman is a serial pedophile rapist and sex trafficker who was sponsored by a foreign state and also had ties to intelligence here too, right? Those states, their agencies, need to be held accountable. This woman belongs behind bars for the rest of her life. And charging her for enticing minors to travel is not enough. I mean, the woman, there are articles, from before Epstein was even arrested the first time, talking about how Ghislaine would brandish whips and train young girls in sex techniques. People knew this stuff was going on. And we're supposed to believe that the FBI is investigating in good faith, and they're charging her for stuff from 1994 to 1997 in 2020.
Right.
And we're supposed to be like, good job, FBI?
Yeah.
I mean, no. I don't know. I mean, this is just, a clear indictment of this two-tier justice system. Someone like Ghislaine Maxwell, who rapes and is responsible for the rape of thousands of minors, is getting charged with this when they admit in the freaking indictment that she's a pedophile rapist, right? And people get locked up for like 20 years because they have like a joint in their pocket.
Yeah, they admit in the indictment she's a pedophile, and then they charge her for like driving with a suspended license. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's pretty much how it is. And that's why I'm saying they're probably going to let her post bail, and who knows what'll happen after that. I mean, like you said, she is a flight risk. Maybe they'll be like, oh, whoops, she went to Israel. Oh, she went to the UK. Oh, she's not here. Oh, well, we don't feel like deporting her,
Right. Where do they find you? Where do they support you, Whitney Webb? You deserve support. You do a lot of research. I would be kept up at night. I could never look into this stuff with the depth that you do.
Thanks. Well, I have a Patreon where you can support me in my upcoming book on the Epstein scandal, which will have a lot more than what we talked about today. It's called One Nation Under Blackmail. It will be out in a couple of months.
Great.
My Patreon is Whitney Webb MPN for when I worked at Mint Press News. I don't currently work there. I have, you can find me on Twitter. That's the only social media I'm really using. It's _ Whitney Webb. And I think that's really about it. I have a podcast that I don't, because I do a lot of other stuff, right? And I'm writing this book and I write a lot of articles. I do have a podcast that are usually just deep dives on articles or topics I've dug into called Unlimited Hangout. My second episode is going to be coming out this weekend. It's going to be, a deep dive into Ghislaine, the Maxwells, and the Maxwell siblings, going into a little more depth than what we covered here. So if you want to know some more crazy tidbits about this wild family, you can look forward to that. It'll be available to patrons first this weekend, and then sometime next week I'll make it public.
It's funny. They're like they're the Mossad's Kardashians.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair way to describe them.
That's pretty. We won't. That would have been the. I would have titled the episode that, but I don't want to shoot myself in the head 4 times. Whitney Webb, thank you so much. You're the best. We appreciate it. Stay safe.
Will do. Thanks.
And for some of you watching before my blood pressure goes through the roof, what do you think about this fridge, guys? This Samsung Bespoke 36-inch 4-door flex refrigerator with AI fan